$75.
How did you get Saturns for that cheap?
Because Amazon right now has this weird thing where they're really trying to incentivize business owners to use Amazon B2B. And so they have special discounts on certain products if you buy them in bulk. And there's a coupon.
Your logo sticker. You put your brand out into the world.
Oh, it's me. It's me.
What are you doing? Why?
I didn't have the tab muted.
Oh, you didn't have the tab muted. Jeez,
And I was getting our
Justin.
ad.
Oh, well, hey, at least you're getting an ad. Listen to the ad. Click the ad. Love the ad. Welcome to the Making Awesome podcast. Speaking of, how's everybody doing today? We have Will from Atlas 3D. He is joining us today, and we are going to be talking all about 3D printing for production because, Will, you just came off of one hell of a marathon, did you not?
We're actually about to start it. So I just came off a marathon of buying shit. I have 42 gallons of resin arriving on Monday.
God.
I bought 5 additional Saturns, 5 gallons of alcohol, more paper towels than I can count, 3,000 gloves, 2 screens, and 20 FEPs because I'm going to print 4,000 spaceships for one-page rules. Because fuck it. Go big or go home.
That's what I'm all about, my dude. We are all about going big or going home. I'm imagining what 42 gallons of resin looks like, and I'm a little afraid. That is a ton. Wait a minute. How much weight is that? Is it a ton of resin?
Yeah, it's more than a ton. We had to hire a truck. There's a truck that's coming with just my pallet of resin.
Beautiful.
It's
beautiful.
Yeah, well, hold on. I can tell you actually. I want to say that it's like 250 pounds. It's a lot.
Jeez.
Because the most that you can fit on a pallet, is 350. So I'm at like 170. The 170-ish pounds in resin.
Oh my god.
That is kind of insane.
$150 for them to drop it at my house because they're like, if we can't go to a business because we're sending a semi truck, it's not even coming UPS. It's coming via freight truck. It's like $150 fee for not having a loading dock.
That's fun.
So when ordering for production, especially if you're in a small rural town, go to your local hardware store and see if they'll let you use their loading dock. It might save you money.
We have done that in the past. Actually, we used the one from our local college, and they were totally cool. They're like, yeah, it's fine. Here are the times when you can bring it because we don't have anything else coming in. And we scheduled it for that time, and it was awesome. It made life so much easier. Because, if it's something that is palletized and you need to get a lift gate, that lift gate's going to cost you an extra couple $100.
Yep.
Minimum. And especially when you're talking about really, really heavy weight, you need a really heavyweight lift gate. And that kind of stuff starts to get incredibly costly. So, that's part of the damage that people don't see when it comes to actually doing production work, right? When you need to get a pallet of filament or a pallet of resin, most businesses, right? Some of us are home-based, some of us have our own shops, but those shops may not have loading docks, and that's a logistical nightmare that if you're not prepared for it, is going to bite you in the ass. And hilariously, I think that whole shipping industry is a bit of a sham and a scam. If any of you have ever had a package get lost or broken and you've tried to claim insurance on it, you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to give a big shout out to Evan at Cocoa Press for finally winning his challenge against UPS when they basically drop kicked his printer multiple times out of a truck on its way to Canada for a Linus Tech Tips episode where it got absolutely destroyed.
And it's not like a little tiny printer that's big. It's like 50 or 60 pounds. I don't know how you drop kick that.
Unit, it's I don't know how
printer.
One of the very first large orders that we shipped out of resin was a $2,500 resin order. It's a huge amount of fucking resin.
Yep.
And UPS, it went out in 3 boxes. And UPS, we don't know how, but they dropped it so hard that it perforated the 1 gallon HTP bottles. So you really gotta do some damage to pierce an HTP bottle like
it was
inside.
leaking.
Yeah. So the person who we sent it to was super chill. But they got a box with about 10 gallons of liquid resin just floating in a bag, because when UPS dropped it, they just dumped it all into a big trash bag that they then put into another box that they then mailed to the client. And they sent us a nice, lovely letter letting us know that we leaked resin all over their place. So I'm like, well, we didn't leak resin. You dropped our box.
Yeah.
Expect that. If you're doing production stuff, just expect that shit's going to get broke. Set aside 15-20% to rebuy stuff, because your clients aren't going to eat it. You are.
Yeah, and make sure your timeline suits it as well. So, like, you're trying to do 4,000 prints, and, you know, even for, I've got 11 printers, but half of them are standard LCD. And if I wanted to do 4,000 prints in that amount of time, yeah, I'm going to take all my LCD printers, throw them out. I'm going to keep their tanks, as I'm just going to replace the OG Marses with Mars 2 Pros, and just go ahead and do that, because the time savings alone on the mono screens for resin 3D printing is astonishing.
Yep.
I'm tuning in some Soraya Tech casting resin right now, and Soraya Tech's really nice. They provide you with all the instructions you need for not only printing but then the burnout, which is really nice. But I won't forget when Soraya Tech had an entire pallet get damaged, and so
I made so much money off that.
Dude, me too. I bought 8.
A lot.
I bought 8, I think, which I still have a couple. But that was back when we were first starting resin. Like, that was before monos were really a big thing. I think the Mars 2 had come out. The Saturn was a glimmer in their eyes at that point. So I'm like, I'll buy some. And yeah, every bottle was perfect. I didn't have a single bottle that had any problems at all. So I got it for half price. And then recently they just ran buy 1 liter of resin, get a liter of their white fast for free. I'm like, I don't print in white often, but I guess I'm going to now.
Free resin is free resin.
That's what I said, right? I needed another bottle of Tenacious. Or not Tenacious, Blue. I need another bottle of Blue. So that was a great time. I'm like, oh, perfect. The one thing that did upset me is the Soraya Tech cast was not included in that. I was very bummed. It was included in the EU, but when I tried to order through their EU thing, even when I tried to use a VPN to put myself in the EU, when I put in the American address, it killed the coupon code. But I will say, if you are looking to buy resin from Soraya Tech, this is not sponsored. They should sponsor us. That'd be kind of cool.
Sponsor us.
Huh?
Atlas should sponsor us.
I mean, yeah, but
they make resin.
They should.
I can send you resin. You guys are easier to send resin to because you're closer.
I'm in Florida. Justin's in California.
I don't have a resin printer though.
Yes, he doesn't have. I have 11.
How can it be like a 3D printer and not have a resin printer? Like, it's just a must-have.
Because he still lives at home and he has to somehow make accommodations for the fact that resin is toxic and that his mother is not a moron.
That's fair. That's fair. Hey, speaking of toxic, you know, one of the things we talked about last time was skin-safe resins, and our boy Aaron Deere is getting signed up right now to go study how to make that shit at the University of Leuven.
No kidding.
Fucking Belgium. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, we're serious, dude. We're gonna we will crack this problem one way or the other, or shock the market into doing it for us, because I don't really care. We need that kind of resin on the market. I don't want to be a tobacco company.
I am all for that, right? I want to see skin safe resin, but more importantly, I want to see at least reasonably safe to be poured down a drain, right? We had this whole issue when water washable resin came out where people were just rinsing it in their sink because, well, it works, but it's still dangerous. And I guess skin safe, maybe body safe as well. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Prusa just released their own resin. I'm sure at this point you are well aware of this.
Yes, I got all kinds of DMs about that. They're like, look at your Prusa resin. Like, I know, but like, I love Prusa to death, but that price point is not a mass market price point.
And I don't think it's designed to be, right? Their printer is not a mass market price point either. They're not going after the people like you and I, where like we want, and I don't own an SL1S. I bought 7 Elegoo Marses instead of one SL1. And don't get me wrong, I firmly believe that I would have had a better printing experience with an SL1. But I would have also needed 7 different resin tanks because every single Mars printer has a different color or different material in it because, well, I can do that. Prusa designed something that is made for businesses that have one very small focused point and they only need one printer. Because if you're going to spend $2,000, you're really only going to get one, generally speaking.
Yeah.
I think it's the same way like with the Mark III compared to getting Creality Ender 3. Yeah. You'll also learn a lot more on that. If it's someone who is newer in the industry and they want to get into resin and they have the cash to spend.
Yeah.
You will learn a lot more from being able to have successful prints and get that positive feedback compared to having those fails after fails that you could possibly get with one of the inexpensive.
Like the future resin farms, the future print farms in general, are selecting against anybody who's trying to use the easy solution. Yeah. If you want to work in 3D printing, you need to know how to support. You need to know how to sculpt. You need to understand all of the ins and outs. Otherwise, you're going to lose.
That is the problem.
Doesn't work in a competitive environment. It only works in an environment where capital can throw around a lot of cash and be like, we're the only ones with it. That world is disappearing rapidly. DLP printing is going to drop through the floor in the next 2 years. So,
I mean, we just saw Elegoo announce the Mars 3 DLP with a 1440p projector, which is interesting. At a $500 price point. And I laugh because we all started with DLP resin 3D printers. I had a Kubo 3D Titan 1 that was a Kickstarter printer, and it did actually arrive. Crazy, I know. And literally, you took an off-the-shelf projector and put it underneath the machine. That is what you did. That is how it worked. And it's like, we're going back to that. And it's kind of odd to me because we moved away from it. My assumption is because LCD screens got so damn cheap because cell phones. They're cell phone screens as far as I can tell.
The RGBs were. The new monochrome screens are actually custom kit. They don't have an analogous commercial product the way the RGB screens did.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. However, do we see other uses for them outside of the resin 3D printing industry? Because I think that we do, but I'm just not certain really on a mass consumer level where we see monochrome screens useful outside of resin 3D printing.
No, see what this is just me making an inference, but so the LCD screen manufacturing, panel manufacturers, they've been riding the cell phone growth curve for the last 15 fucking years. But what's slowing now? People are buying fewer cell phones.
And the cell phones are OLED now.
They need factories like that. When you spend $15 billion to build a factory, you need shit going through that factory all the time. If it's not running, it's losing you money. And so I think for resin 3D printers, this industry is getting a lot of interest from a lot of other industries that are looking for new markets to grow into. Industrial resin manufacturers, machine manufacturers, all kinds of manufacturers are looking for anywhere to grow new clients. And resin 3D printing is that. I mean, I think that's why you see so many printer companies pop up overnight, because they can go to Shenzhen and there's a factory in Shenzhen that'll shit out a printer part for you. No problem at all, because they're just looking to make anything.
100%. Like the kinematics of it are one motor or 3 on the fancy printers that you guys make.
The proper way, I will say, 3 motors. I have not stopped talking about that particular feature of your printer because I think it is truly that to me is the piece de resistance of that whole. And I know really the big one is the open source board, but no, because we're going to see a paradigm shift, right?
Well, see, I go back and I mean, yes and no. It's there's a certain amount of testing that has to be done when you think about it, because there's more moving parts.
Yeah.
Anytime you have more moving parts, like from a pure engineering perspective, you're going to increase the probability of part failure.
Of course.
So for medium and large format in particular, I think multiple stepper motors so that you get a more even pull is going to be a requirement. Like I bought a Jupiter, but I bet you a Jupiter size printer would do better with more than one stepper motor. It'll be interesting to see how it works.
No, sir, you backed the Jupiter. You did not buy it. Elegoo. Brad made sure. So last week, of course, was our further talk about the Jupiter. Some of my gripes about it, my particular gripe about Kickstarter, and I think the industry has a known gripe about it. Did you get in at the $600 price point, or where'd you get in at?
Oh God, no! I didn't even try to. Because that was just going to make me mad. I went back and forth on whether or not I wanted to do it. I talked with the team, like, hey, we're moving away from just making objects printable to printing for people. So, should we, as a company, buy a large format printer like this? We're in Vegas. We want to start doing printing. So, having that large format printer means that when conferences come back online next year, I can do cosplay. Somebody wants a full-size fucking helmet, they want a breastplate, they want a shield or something. With a large format printer like the Jupiter in the mix in the farm, that's something that I can offer. And if nothing else, now I can shit out even more minis per print run. I think that with some of what we're wanting to do with using 3D printing for fourth wave, like industrial revolution production close to home,
right?
Medium and large format printers are the only way for business to go. Small format printers are just not going to be viable, in my opinion, for the same reason as multi-stepper motors on a printer might not be. If you think about your business as a complex like object, if you have a whole lot of little printers, now you have a whole lot of failure points. So you've got redundancy, but you're also going to be constantly, over time, always having a printer that's down that you have to repair. I need 30 Mars 2s to compete with 10 Saturns. Rule of large numbers means with 30 Mars 2s, I'm going to have more time down doing FEP replacement, more time down doing screen replacement, more time down doing any of that maintenance. If I only have 10 machines, it's a lot less maintenance. Maybe the maintenance is more expensive every time I got to do it, but that difference between being in your home printer versus trying to actually be a small business size, medium sized business doing production, that I think is going to require the larger printers.
Yeah, I think it's like looking at that, like the difference between the FDM world and then the resin world. That's like something that's very different, because when you do get a larger printer, you're adding way more print time. While in a resin printer that's LCD based, or I think the DLP based would be the same. I haven't. That it would be the same amount of print time, no matter how big your X and Y is, except maybe a little bit of shaking the bed a little bit more or something. Wouldn't add that much layer time. But when you get a giant FDM printer, yeah, your layers are going to take way longer now. So that's, I think, the difference that people have to think about, the differences in resin compared to FDM. And a lot more people are used to the FDM world because that's been in the maker's hands for a lot longer.
It has. Yeah, resin's only been around. Well, okay. Hold that. Resin was the first technology developed, yes. Right? The first patent was surrounding resin 3D printing. But it only became commercially viable consumer viable in the past 2 years?
Yeah. The
Mars.
The Mars. Yeah, those Kickstarters. That's what made it consumer friendly.
The photon. The Anycubic photon was, as far as I remember, the first MSLA printer under $400. And all that happened was that Elegoo just came in and said, how about we sell them at $200? And Anycubic's like, how about $300? And Elegoo said, well, how about $200? And Anycubic said, okay, I guess we can do $250.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be blunt though, like that's what happens when you have the state helping you do that. That's part of why we're pushing for the open source thing, because like straight up, EPACs and us, we can't do that. No. I don't have, the United States government's not sitting behind me saying, hey, Atlas, we want to make sure that our companies win. So here's a line of credit. Go ahead and just go straight to the floor. We have to deal with the real world of business where, profit and loss matters.
What are those?
I know, right? You know, it really helps when, you know, yeah. I don't want to get too ideological about that, but maybe someday we'll be able to, you know, to use a crowdfunding platform to eat millions of dollars in losses to move a commercial product. You know, it'd be great.
It's like crowdfunding is not supposed to work that way, but I guess, you know, when the crowdfunding platform can make, I don't know, 200 grand in 10 minutes, they're going to look the other way, because I certainly would too.
I really like the new crowdfunding platform that's more for electronics projects. I can't think of the name right now. I'll look. It's like for people, like if they have an idea for an open source board or whatever, and you can easily like get it into consumers' hands. And the thing is with it, they help you get connected to people in China most of the time that will be help you manufacture your boards. And like it's not just Kickstarter goes and okay, here's your money, bye. They actually want to help you bring it to market. So let me find that link, and because I think that'd be something cool to look into for a lot of really awesome projects on there.
I did have some questions regarding the Jupiter because we opted not to back it. One, I don't have the spare capital, and if I was going to do that, I'd have to buy it out of my own pocket. And right now, even at $740, it's just not something that I think I'm going to need right now. If you don't need the big build plate of the Jupiter, why would you go with the Jupiter instead of multiple Saturns? And my argument there would be, if you're running multiple sets of prints, you know, let's say you're running 500 minis. If one of those minis on the build plate is considerably taller than all the others, they're all going to take that same amount of time. If I have 4 Saturns or 2 Saturns or whatever size it ends up being in terms of volumetrically, I can have one of those prints done early while the other one is still running, right? So the value of the Jupiter sits, as far as I can tell, only if you need to do big ass parts. If you don't need to do big ass parts, I didn't see the big value in the Jupiter. Am I right in going that direction?
I would say it's more that you shouldn't buy a Jupiter if you don't all have a print farm.
Right.
Is what I would say. Because, like, yes, if I want to print 50 minis and one of them is tall, that's going to be, you know, that's going to mean all of my short ones now have that build time.
And
but,
you don't want to run
like,
a Saturn for one mini. You just don't want to do that.
Okay, I mean, objectively, no, you don't want to do that because you're if you want to look at, if you really want to get granular, every time you turn the thing on, you're causing wear and tear damage. Yeah. So you only want to, you want to amateurize that as much as possible. So yeah, you don't want to turn your Saturn on for just one. But I would say, especially unless you're operating at a scale that I don't think anyone is yet, the loss there right now at our scale isn't noticeable. You have to really be shitting. I think in a 10 to 20,000 unit range, where that cost difference from running one versus a whole plate will become visible. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It does. Okay, so I'm glad that my thought wasn't far, right?
So what's going to happen is the same thing with the Saturn. A bunch of people bought Saturns who should not have bought Saturns. They have no printers, or they have like one printer at home, and they're like, I'm going to start a business, so I'm buying a Jupiter. Nah, I just wasted $1,000.
Yep.
Because, like, you have no network, you have no connections. Who are you going to use that for? But, like, okay, so the Jupiter has 3 times the volume of my Saturn. When I was setting up my plates for this major print run, if I had an extra Jupiter, what I would have done is tiled that one. I mean, I did all of the same parts on the same plate.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I'm not always going to be able to do that. Sometimes I'll have lots of different things that all need to be printed. So maybe I'm printing 1,000 different units instead of 1,000 of one unit.
Yeah.
But for a lot of businesses, I think that what you're actually going to be printing is not 1,000 individual units, but 1,000 of one unit, 1,000 of another unit. Build out these build plates that are just one thing tiled 1,000 times. And then you figure out the math of how many times do I need to print this plate. And now I know, okay, somebody comes to me and they want 1,200 ships. That ship takes 1 hour to print. I need to loop it 5 times, so it's 5 hours in print time for me to make those ships. And I just run that same file. It's all planning in ahead. You should never build a plate that has objects that aren't fairly close to the same height.
Yep.
Like,
agreed.
You just shouldn't. And that's the kind of stuff that you have to think about in advance. You may have heard this phrase before, but like you plan the work and you work the plan. That is the most effective thing to do. The only way to be a business in this stuff is to really plan your work. Because if you don't, you're going to get nickeled and down everywhere. You'll lose money everywhere on time.
It's true. Yeah. And that to me is where the Jupiter comes in, right? Big production. I am really concerned after seeing the reviews of the Frozen Sonic Mega 8K and all the issues that it's having with suction, the stupid holes in the plate, and all that kind of crap, that Elegoo is going to suffer similar issues. Now, I did not see that their plate had any holes in it, which worries... Huh?
It doesn't, which is good.
It doesn't, which is good because you're not going to get resin trapped. But it doesn't, and that's going to cause a fair bit of suction forces, which I'm a little worried about. Unless, of course, they, mix in some expected frame wobble like you're seeing on the Mars 3s now, that effectively causes it to peel slowly because you're bending the frame. We referenced that in the last episode, and I said, look, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I really don't think it's that big of a deal, because by the time it's bending the frame, the light's already off, right? You're trying to peel it up, and then it's going to spring right back to where it used to be, give or take a little bit. But eventually, it's going to get to a point where it stops bending. And I said, all right, at that point, you're fine. You're fine.
From a print perspective, sure, but if you think about like from a material properties perspective of the build arm and the frame that's flexing, that stuff has a limited number of times it can flex. So your print might be fine, but I 100% guarantee you the build life, the lifetime expectancy of that unit is going to be short. Wherever you're flexing, that's where it's going to break.
Yep.
Or fracture.
Yep. You're going to see yielding on bolts. You're going to see aluminum start to bend. And that is always what worries me about these big printers. And that's why when I saw your printer with its 3 lead screws, ball screws, whatever you guys end up utilizing for it, now you're spreading out that load. Yes, it adds in crazy amounts of complexity in terms of, the positioning and everything that you have to deal with on the board side. But it increases the stiffness orders of magnitude. Yeah. And thankfully, they're not making the cover on the Jupiter pull off the same way that it does on the Saturn. I will continue to say that is truly the worst thing about these cheap resin 3D printers, is that you got to pull the whole damn lid off and there's not a freaking door.
That's $100 off the cost. For me, like as an end user, I will spend $100 less. Don't get me wrong. I hate the hoods. They get dirty. They get messed up. They get funky.
Yep.
But for $100 less, fine.
Well, and for $100 less, if you're going to do this on a production level, build a room without UV light in it, right? Build a room where you can filter out UV light, and then just don't put the covers on the machines. They're going to stink. But guess what? VOC filters. You've got that problem solved too. And if the room is specifically made for resin 3D printing, and you have all the preparations done in there correctly, don't put the lids on them, I think. That's my personal opinion.
Well, so it's not just no UV. You also need to have no dust.
Yeah, which is probably the harder of the two.
Yeah, if you want to keep it without the lids, you kind of have to create a clean room.
Yep. Cancer experience. I have lots of animals, and even though I keep my covers on, I don't know, 1 out of every 15 or 20 prints, I get dog hair fused into my mini. It comes off the plate. I'm like, that's hair stuck in there, man, and it's because it's got fused into the resin.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a relatively quick thing to deal with, though. I mean, you just kind of cut it flush and move on, unless it does cause print failures, but I've never noticed it.
No, but see, again, at normal human scale, not a problem.
Right.
But at business scale, now you have a problem.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the things that we're looking into now, going back to toxicity and safety. When you're an at-home printer, the amount of waste that you're generating is still substantial, but compared to a business, way less.
Yeah, it's nothing compared to a business.
Dude, depending on the city or state that you're in, if you're running a 3D printing company and you're going through a lot of resin and you're not appropriately disposing of your stuff, some greenie in your town is going to find out. And then they're going to sue your business and you will close. The closest analogy I can think of is there are car stores that sell oils and cleaners and shit. And out in Oregon, there was one that got shut down because he was cleaning off his driveway in the back and oil had been spilled. And all of the causeways in Oregon filter to the ocean. So there are very particular rules about what you can spray down the drains because everything in Oregon filters to the ocean.
Right.
He lost his business because he was flushing oil down the drains. And it wasn't a substantial amount, but it did not matter. There were a lot of rules that govern that behavior. It's going to be the same thing with commercial level resin printing.
Yep. And like, that's why it's why I stress so much about the toxicity of resin, right? We have a thing. Resin is toxic, right? We have a thing about this. And it's the same reason, like I always tell people, hey, don't forget to call your loved ones, right? That's something that I want to pound into people's heads so that it's always on their mind. Because one mistake, you've got chemical burns. Another mistake, you're poisoning waterways. And even further, the EPA is going to find you and fine you $250,000 per incident. Because this is not something that we have easy ways of cleaning. You can't easily filter it from water. You have to deal with it this way. And like, I live in Florida. I am on a well, right? If someone was to start dumping toxic chemicals and it leaches into the aquifer, you have poisoned millions of people that have no other means of obtaining fresh water. And that is one of those problems. You sit there and say, well, that is, that's a problem. Meta Creativity said something similar happened with a quart of paint to a hardware store local to me. 1 quart of paint spilled in the parking lot cost them the business. Latex paint.
Yep.
And that is likely due because they didn't have the proper cleanup methods. And that's why we tell, look, even in your cleaning stuff, make sure you cure out the resin. And whatever resin you don't cure out, filter it out. Yeah, use high-powered UV light. Me, when I'm done with my resin for the day, I put the lid back, I turn the stir thing on, I quickly turn it off, and then I turn on the curing, and I leave the curing on for like 10 minutes. And I will settle out all the resin. Before the next day that we start resin again, I'll filter it all out, all the solids out, and then we have reasonably clean fluid. And if you have a nose for it, you'll smell it pretty quickly of whether or not your fluid is clean. But I also don't use alcohol. I use mean green. I want to go to alcohol, but on some of these larger cleaner stations, man, you need like a gallon or 2 of alcohol to fill it up.
I go through 5 gallons of alcohol a month.
What?
5 gallons. I go through 5 gallons a month.
That's honestly a lot less than I expected.
The cheapest way is just getting it from the drugstore until you get to like 5 gallons, I think.
No, I go to my local hardware store and they sell denatured alcohol or acetone in 5-gallon drums, and I just go there and I buy the 5-gallon drum. You can also go if you're IPA only, because some people don't like denatured alcohol or acetone. Uline will ship you very large quantities of alcohol at reasonable prices.
Dang.
Yeah, because like if you want to try and get like a gallon or 2 on like anywhere online, it's crazy expensive. So like going to the drugstore and getting a few bottles of it ends up being cheaper.
Yeah. Now some of that was COVID, but
yeah.
If you as a business, unless you're consumer facing, I highly recommend acetone just because it's faster. And I guess let me rephrase. I recommend acetone all the way up until you're no longer the person doing the work and you're hiring somebody. Once you start hiring somebody, go back to alcohol and make sure you train them too and you have appropriate insurance liability because somebody's going to fuck up and get hurt and sick. And again, you as a business owner, that's on you.
What is the cost difference between acetone and alcohol?
Depends on the state you're in.
That's fair.
Like in Nevada, for me, I can get, it's like $3 to $4 a gallon cheaper. So at scale, it makes a difference for me. Like over the, Now in California, you can't even buy some of that stuff. So it really does just depend.
I can't get denatured alcohol. I just look.
Ha
ha. As of December 20th, 2019, denatured alcohol is illegal.
We do have a question in the comments. He said, Jimmy Johansson, who, by the way, is a patron. If you want to support our channel directly, patreon.com/3D Musketeers. Links are probably somewhere in the description. They should be. Maybe they're not. Maybe I don't have it in this one. I'm going to have to now go check. But yeah, patreon.com/3D Musketeers if you want to support us directly. He said, hey, Grant, how often... You often mention chemical burns from resin. I don't think you've mentioned do not go outside or close to a window until you have thoroughly washed and gotten it off your skin. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. If you get it on your skin, you should immediately stop what you're doing and go wash your skin. Because the chemical burns do not come from the curing. The chemical burns literally come from skin contact of raw resin. Curing only makes it happen faster because it's an exothermic reaction and it's gonna burn. But yeah, you want to make sure you get that off your skin quickly. Now, for most people, within 5 or 10 minutes, you'll be fine. But as your exposure gets up, your sensitivity goes up as well. You might notice the first time you get it on your skin, you might not even notice it for hours, right? You just might think you got a little water on your skin, no big deal. But eventually it's going to start to get itchy. That sensitivity will get faster and faster and faster. And it's because you're literally allergic to it. It's just your body doesn't realize yet that it's that allergic. That's my understanding. Will, do you agree on this?
So as from what we've been told, resin sensitivity is a thing that happens. It's variable. And so some people are more sensitive to others. Some people build sensitivity faster than others. I know, and a lot of this stuff for me is anecdotal. I have people that I've interacted with who said a year and a half ago they had no problems at all, and now they can't be around it at all.
Yeah.
There's a creator that we work with who used to do all of his own 3D printing, and now he breaks out into hives and shit if he gets around it. He has a very strong allergic reaction. I haven't myself had an increase in sensitivity, but I have lost my fingerprints like 3 times. 10 out of 10 do not recommend. It's really freaky when your fingers are cracked and bleeding and it takes a month for them to stop. So even though I haven't become more sensitized, it sucks. And I know other people who have. So again, I don't want to be a tobacco company. So I lean in on the abundance of caution. What the university people told us is it's the photo initiator. That is the most toxic part of all of this is the photo initiator. And that stuff you don't exactly it's not like mercury that's stuck in you forever. Like if you get mercury in you, like it's really hard for your body to actually pass mercury out,
right,
process it. As I understand it, it's kind of similar with this. There's something that's in the modern resins that your body doesn't fully pass for some people. And it's that buildup of that over time can cause that increased sensitivity.
I wonder if, so like the mercury, it is always positioned back to Mad as a Hatter, I believe, because they used mercury for hat making. And when they would burn it off or boil it off, they would be inhaling these mercury fumes. They would the first way that you could tell that you were dying of mercury poisoning is your teeth would start to fall out, which I think is truly one of the worst initial symptoms of a problem, is that your teeth start falling out. It'll be curious to see what long-term side effects of all of this is, because I've noticed that I am considerably more sensitive to it now than I used to be. I'm still at about 10 or 15 minutes, but at this point, as soon as I get it on me, like let's say I've got gloves to here. Now I use the big yellow kitchen gloves that come to here. That are like, basically at the elbow.
You actually, if you're wearing those, you need to wear an underglove, or you need to replace those gloves regularly.
Yes,
because
we throw them out.
Good, yeah, because they get doped, and basically the resin will pass through the glove.
Yeah, it seems like nitril's the safest. Latex, it can slowly pass through, but What we do is, as soon as we're done, we cure the gloves, and I think it's after 1 or 2 uses, I just toss them, right? I cure them out, I kind of break off all the hard resin, and then we cure them again, and we toss them. Because they're $1 a pair from the dollar store. I do not give a damn. It is not... Some of the pictures, and there's one particular picture that always freaks me out on when I see it on Reddit, is the guy that was carrying a resin printer in his lap when he was driving, and the resin sloshed and got on his thighs, and he didn't realize it was resin, and it soaked into his underwear and into his clothing. So this was in skin contact for hours. And the damage to his skin is insane. And like when you're running this on a production scale, exposure is not something that you're saying, I'm not going to get exposed. You're like, all right, how do we mitigate exposure? I would guess full long sleeve lab coats for sure, that you guys are changing every couple of prints, that they're being cured out in the hot sun, then they're being washed. I mean, what kind of precautions are you taking in preparation for this 4,000 part order? By the way, for those of you that are joining late, Will is about to embark in a 4,000 piece order, 42 gallons of resin, literally over a ton of resin. What kind of precautions are you taking to make certain that, like, bro, just like straight up, that's some dangerous shit you're about to undertake here?
Well, it helps that I have my printers in a 3,000 square foot hangar.
I mean, there is that.
That helps a whole lot. And in anticipation of doing this, I streamlined a lot of my flow. It's still just me. I don't have anybody who's helping me with this, so it's a one-man band, running this off over a weekend. But I have all of my printers now strategically staged on a wall in this nice, big, open, ventilated area, so I'm not worried about the air contamination. I've got separate cleaning stations that are set up now. I've basically broken everything down so that, that's the best that I can do for right now, because I'm moving between them, moving out of my house into the next, basically the next level of actual production. And so the most that I can do is almost the old school, like the solution is dilution. So I have a huge amount of open air. So I've moved my printers, which used to be close to me. When I was only running 1 or 2, I had them in my workspace in the room with me.
Mine are like, you can't see them on camera, but they are directly next to me. We do have VOC filters in the office, though.
Yeah, see, I don't have filters in my space. And so it was like, okay, how do I deal with that for now in a way that... Well, I don't smell them. And see, that's a good thing, bad thing, is I can't smell resin. I've never been able to smell it. Other than a few resins, most of them don't have scent to me.
Well, you're using your own resin for this, too. You're not using what most of us would consider off-the-shelf resin. You're literally using your own formula that you guys have developed. So your resin might be less stinky. I am excited because I do want to get some in to test. We actually have some resin coming from another company as well.
Cool.
That I said, hey, if you want me to test your resin, I don't own any of your printers. Would you want to send a printer? They're like, no, but we knew that you didn't have any of our printers. That's why we want to send you some of our resin. We want you to test our resin in other people's printers. I'm like, that seems odd, but I'm kind of down. But yeah, we got a lot of requests to do a video comparing the Saturn to the Photon Mono X, since we have both. And I want to do that with different resins to see how it does. So like, I got that Anycubic fast gray or fast white that I'm never going to probably use. So I was going to use that. I wanted to try out some of this stuff that I'm getting in from an unnamed company because they're not paying me to say their name. And I'd like to try yours as well. And this is an episode with Atlas 3D, so I'm not going to, send out a name that isn't nice.
I would, I'll make sure we get some shipped over to you. We've got our Vulcan, we've got Hercules, which is coming out soon. I'll ship you both. Yeah,
and I'm literally going to be running in some casting resin here soon. And I just kind of gave it a quick sniff. It smells kind of sweet, which is odd. So I'll be curious to see.
Methyl acrylate.
I've tried Maker Juice Wax Labs. Hated it. It's terrible. I hate that resin.
What did you dislike about it?
It settles. Or it separates. Okay. And like during a reasonably long print, it would be terrible. It also is, depending on how long that resin has been in a tank,
Yeah.
would vary how long you had to expose it for. It was not consistent for me, right? I used, and I hate.
Hey, so if that's the case, that means their photo initiator is oxidizing.
It would get like a film. Like if you leave like Jello pudding out, it gets that skin. And you'd have to peel the skin off. It's really weird. And I finally, because we have a couple of jewelry clients, I said, I can't do this, guys. Like I'm losing like every 3 prints. Like, and that is not sustainable on a business model, even on small scale. So we transitioned over to using, and I hate, it's the F word in my area, Formlabs. And that's $400 a liter, like crazy expensive. And
is that cure on the
oh yeah,
LCD printers?
Absolutely. Yeah,
because I thought there was a different
nope. 405 nanometer laser versus 405 nanometer UV light. They're both still UV based. Yeah, so that worked fine, and that is beautiful resin. But at $400 a liter, I had to quadruple my price, and nobody liked that. So what we ended up doing is, I sent a local person a bunch of just some failed prints, some spare stuff that I had laying around of Soraya-Tex fast resin, and we actually built a burnout schedule for the Soraya-Tex fast resin, because you can do it. It just has to be very hot to do so. But now Soraya-Tex came out with the casting resin. I'm going to be trying that. And I would think that there's a big market out there. I know some of the larger companies that do jewelry 3D printing are using 3D Systems wax printers, because they're literally printing in wax with a very small amount of photopolymer resin in it. But I mean, those are $200,000 machines that cost $1 a milliliter to run. And when we look at this from a business standpoint, I can't spend that much money when I only have like 5 jewelry clients. I need to find a better solution. And so our better solution was to look at using regular resin. Yeah. And the only reason that we went down that path is it's kind of weird. I had a cat that passed a couple of years back, and this is where I got the idea from, because her name was Audrey 2. And no, it was not the second Audrey cat that I've had. It's a Little Shop of Horrors reference. For the love of God, everyone looked at me weird. They're like, what's the name of the cat? Audrey 2? What happened to Audrey 1? Oh, it was eaten by a plant. Do you not know this? Like, come on, this is exactly what happened.
Okay, old man.
I'm only 31. Give me a break here. It's a good movie, but when she had kidney failure, and that's just kind of what happens in cats, and when we had her cremated, they let us put anything we wanted in there. Well, everyone that was involved in kind of her last days of life, I printed a resin Audrey 2 for them so that they all could have something to remember her. We put one of them in with the cat, and it was not there. Like, within 5 minutes, it was gone. Like, physically gone. And that's what gave me the idea that we could do it with regular resin. And that's what we ended up doing. And casting resin is better, but I think regular resin, still, we need to refine that formula, because it's not consistent. We look at, what kind of resins do I have here? I've got Soraya-Tex Fast, and I've got Soraya-Tex Sculpt. They look, they feel, they print like the same resins, but they're not. And to get a standard would be amazing in this industry.
You know a guy.
We do know a guy.
We are, I would say that the castable resins are a thing that we're looking at, but that's so far outside of our current space that that's more looking at thing than how to immediately operationalize that. I know that like Rivenator, for example, does castable dice, and he was telling us the main thing that a lot of the castables are looking for now is resin that doesn't need a special cleaner, that you can print in it, and then you can immediately use it for molding without having to buy the $90 a liter cleaners. Because like right now, use regular resin, and you go to do molding or casting with it, almost all of them have to be specially cleaned and particularly cured, or the mold stuff that you put in won't set. It'll just stay gelatinous, and then, at least that's what we've been told. Us, it's still it's starting with our basically you dance with who brought you. and we came to the table with tabletop, so we're starting there. But I would imagine that for us, as we transition into doing production printing, getting castables and providing castables, I could see in 2022 being a key revenue driver for any kind of print farm makerspace.
Yeah.
You know, figuring out what your local community might want a lot of bits and bobs of, that you can make 500 or 1,000 of. Like, realistically, if you're looking for this kind of stuff in your stateside or even in the EU, your client quantity size is basically people who are too small to go to China, but too big to do it at home. And so, like, what kind of, if you're going to buy a product, you're going to offer a service, that's the market that you're serving. So what do those people want? You know, it's the contractor who doesn't want to have to go get a bunch of shit injection molded that you could rapidly 3D print off for. It's light switches. It's actually really simple shit that's currently all made by the tens of thousands open. But with COVID, with shipping, with things getting expensive, when we first started planning resin, we were pricing out a shipping container last year's time. To get a shipping container from Shenzhen to Florida was like $2,000. No big deal, because it's a 20-foot shipping container. I can fit like 12 pallets of resin. That's a lot of fucking resin for $2,000. That same shipping container today, like $20,000. I can't ship resin that way. It's just not possible. Not at the price points that are, not to be competitive anyway, it's just not possible. It's going to be the same thing across the board. Unless major political changes happen in the next 5 years, which I don't expect, every single good you buy is going to get more expensive if it comes from China, because shipping prices are not going to go down.
No.
Fuel prices are not going to go down. Carbon taxes are going to go up.
Like, how much you pay for gas out there, Justin? What are you paying for gas? I was just complaining that gas just got over $3 a gallon here. What'd you pay for fuel?
It was $4.65 for premium yesterday.
Oh, that's cheap. It was last time we talked about gas prices. You were at almost $5.
Yeah, that was with the 20 cents from like grocery rewards.
Everything you could do to get a dime back from the man. Well, you know, I'll say, Will, I don't know, I don't think you're watching the comments, but Alexandre, and I'm fairly certain it's the one that I'm thinking it is, from Lychee, is saying, you have my interest. No more platinum silicone. It should be silicone jelly failures. That would be a game changer for us. And I'm gonna, the silicon versus silicone, there's always the anecdote of silicon chips, silicone boobs, right? And I can't put that in a channel video, but that's like how you have to remember it, right? You gotta remember it that way. But it would be a game changer, because there are a lot of us that want to do high-end casting right now. I mean, we've been talking about it internally of other markets that we can get into where we can utilize resin printing and then go into silicone casting and then two-part epoxy casting. But if we have to do it with FDM printing, the amount of extra work that you need to do just stops being worth it. And
now you can cheat if it's a large enough thing. And again, this is only in a clean environment. But if you do your FDM print and then you get a spray bottle of resin, you can spray the resin on and then UV torch it. And that'll get you
done that before.
Real carefully. Huh?
We've done that, and I think Uncle Jesse was the first one to kind of show this off, where you mix some cornstarch or baby powder, the cheap baby powder, which is normally just cornstarch, and you can create a paste, and that's great for filling seams. I use the hell out of that idea because it's bloody brilliant.
It's UV Bondo.
it is UV Bondo. However, I think the jelly issue is because you're still off-gassing. You're still off-gassing some of that resin, whatever it is. And the silicone says, I'm not a huge fan of really anything except for myself. And when you mix whatever that off-gas is with the silicone, it seems to get pissed off. Now, does the Atlas resin still have that same problem with Vulcan?
Yeah.
It does? Okay.
Yeah, there's no that problem, mate. Believe me, if we had solved that problem, that is all you would have fucking heard from me. Because there have been lots of people who came to us and who were like, hey, we heard you're making a resin. We want platinum silicon castable resin. And we've talked to 2 manufacturers about making that particular thing. It's a hard problem. There's lots of people trying to solve it. We're going to try and solve that, but fuck me if I know when that's going to happen or how much money it'll take to do it.
Well, I guess that's what
Right now,
Aaron Dare is going to be for, right? They're going back to school to solve all those problems, right?
among other things, yeah. So electromechanical engineering, so that we've got a little bit more hardware knowledge, and then doing dual duty with some chemistry too. So again, that we just get some more institutional knowledge inside Atlas. And it was kind of the promise that we made to Aaron here when he came on with us about a year ago, was that depending on how fast we grew, if we grew fast enough, we bring him on as our lead researcher and just basically fund him to play around. And if we didn't grow fast enough, we'd send him back to college so that he could get the knowledge that way and start playing around. So it's been a year, and back to college he's going. We've grown fairly fast, but not quite fast enough to bring on a nuclear health and safety researcher as our lead researcher. He needs a little bit more, as it were. So back to school he goes, which we're eternally grateful for.
Yeah, I think that will be the money, right? A platinum curable silicone around a resin part. Oh, and Alexandre actually has what I think is a great option. They use a tin cure first, which you can use fine.
Yes.
And then they cast a urethane, then they go and they cast the platinum, which is an absolute pain in the ass. However, it's a much better option than, having to deal with the jelly failures. We haven't done too much platinum silicone work, but it is a market that I think we're going to be pushing into, specifically to deal with higher detail. Huh?
See, it's not even just the higher detail, honestly. It's just scale. You can get so many more pulls out of a platinum mold than you can out of a tin mold. I mean, it's barely even measurable in comparison. Like, tin is nothing compared to platinum in terms of longevity. It's just huge.
And Alexandre, we will see you later. They're heading out, so thanks for hanging out. Ryan76 said, so I started 3D printing a few months ago. I'm okay at 3D Max for modeling, but I hear Blender's the way to go for modeling 3D prints. I'm trying to make a Frank the Bunny mask from Donnie Darko.
No, go to Blender, not Blender. Go to Zbrush.
Zbrush is kind of the industry standard, but if you can't afford Zbrush and you don't want to sail the 7 seas, Blender is not a bad option.
Yeah, my main thing with Blender, though, is that Blender's vertices. Now, I mean, if you spend the time and you smooth things out, you're not going to have that problem. But a lot of the times when we get sculpting work that's been done in Blender, we get what we call dirty mesh, which is difficult to support, and it will print, but oftentimes it'll print with visual artifacts, or it requires a lot of additional support work or post-processing work.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's what we had the problem with the bananas grant.
What do you mean?
That it wasn't a great mesh.
Yeah, it wasn't. And you can have the same issue in ZBrush if you decimate it down too far. And that's something to keep in mind as well. You have to find, like, I had someone send me a model for printing that was clearly done in ZBrush. The first model was 45 million poly. Like, that was a half a gigabyte file. I did not realize it until I loaded it in, and I'm like, why the hell is my CPU still pinned? Now, I have an old computer, so that, could just be some random problem. But no, it was because it was a half a gigabyte file that the client sent me. And I said, dude, I need 1 million poly or less. And yes, you will start to see visible artifacts under 100,000 poly. But at 1 million poly, you'll be fine. You should be at like a 50 to 60 megabyte file. But even that, at like, and this was a big part. This was an 8-inch diameter part. I mean, so, relatively large. But like at a 40 millimeter mini or something like that, dude, you can go down to 100K poly and still be totally fine. But
we have people send us stuff all the time. They're like, it needs to be that way. I'm like, no, you're sculpting for the render, not the print. That feature is less than 15 micron. It ain't gonna print. I have to support it, but it ain't gonna print.
Yeah.
So you can do low poly in Prusa Slicer now?
Yeah. Prusa Slicer 2.4. Have you played around with the new 2.4, Will? Do you even...
No, I am all lychee all the time because all I ever do is put sticks on things, so I don't have time to play around with other slicers unless there's like some kind of killer app feature. I played with Prusa Slicer in the beginning, and I think that's a perfectly fine slicer, especially for FDM.
Yes.
And I love some of the innovative things they're trying to do with it. I think they were one of the first to have NetFab built in, which was super great.
Yeah. They're the only ones that you can access NetFab still because NetFab doesn't exist anymore.
Except if you're like me and you still have an old file of it. You haven't.
Or unless you do it through 3D Builder.
Nah.
No, see, I downloaded Fusion 360 Professional Edition, which they let you download as a demo.
Nice.
And you don't have to give them a credit card or anything. And then you have a handy dandy little exe file that exists on your computer. And after your trial expires, as long as you have a reasonably beefy computer, you have their repair algorithm local.
Nice.
And that never goes away. So I still run my NetFab via lychee. It's just it all runs local for me.
That's cool.
10 out of 10 do recommend, because you can still do that. That path is not closed.
I do have Fusion education, so I should look if I have that then.
Yeah, the professional version of NetFab is phenomenal. Make sure you set extended repair, because by default, the repair algorithm is set to simple repair, which works. But if you've got flipped normals or inverted normals or any other things like that, you want to do that extended repair, it will eat your computer cycles, like all of them.
Fine.
So don't do anything else. Just hit the repair button and like walk away and then come back and it'll be...
Close Chrome, then hit the repair button and walk away.
I need more RAM first.
Oh, don't you know you can download more RAM?
Oh yeah, hold on. Let me go download some more. Download more.
Yeah, Zbrush is the industry standard, and I'll tell you, when we look at our designers and what people make here at 3DM, the Zbrush people make the money. The money is in Zbrush because it is one thing to do surfaces and solids. It is another thing to do an organic shape and not have an uncanny valley issue. When you're doing masks, initially you can get away with having some uncanny valley because it's not supposed to look 100%. But I would say if you're looking to learn, Blender's a good way to start. And with a lot of add-ons, Blender can look very, very, very similar to ZBrush. But Blender will never be ZBrush. One of my gripes, and I don't know if they've ever fixed it, the last ZBrush I used was 4R7. And I know they're on ZBrush 5 at this point. But file is not in the top left, and it always pisses me off. It's in the middle because ZBrush's ZBrush's menus are in alphabetical order because they're Mad Lads, and I think their Pixelogic is Russian, are they not?
No, I don't think so. I don't know though. I know that lychee Thomas comes from Pixelogic.
Does he really?
Yeah, he was over at Pixelogic for 12 years before he came on to Mango.
Now I want to interview Thomas more. I've reached out to Thomas a few times for an interview, but like, go figure, they're crazy busy right now, not only trying to, have their software continue to be awesome, but, dealing with all the stuff that's going on that they don't want to talk about, which is totally understandable because I will try to pull it out. I love lychee. I will say the latest Prusa 2.4, I am preferring Prusa's auto arranging and auto rotating algorithm because now they let you choose. They let you choose best surface quality, least overhangs, lowest Z.
Well, it is open source, so
it is open source, so they could easily port it into lychee they could port it into lychee. I'm not going to say easily, but they could port it into lychee if they wanted, and that is a bummer for me. And it was a bummer for me when Prusa changed. Prusa changed their algorithm from being prettiest to least overhangs. And it messed with the way that I did everything. Lychee, I don't know what algorithm they use, but being able to choose it as a person, that would be pretty cool. And that is a feature that I like in Prusa 2.4. However, Prusa 2.4 is nowhere near as stable as Lychee Slicer is. But it's
Isn't
also
Lychee open source?
Lychee is not open source.
I don't.
okay.
Yeah, I don't think it is. If it is, they wouldn't charge for a pro edition.
Well, you could still charge for pro editions on open source.
Why? I would just compile the pro edition myself and not pay for it.
Yes, but like stuff could talk back to their servers and whatnot, depending on certain things that.
I don't think
Depending on pro
Lychee is
edition.
open source, but I also don't think that Lychee is going to find themselves in the same place that C2Box is finding themselves. So, you know,
No.
I will be curious to see
Well,
what's
Lychee's
this.
not going to lock things down.
Well, Lychee's not making boards either, not yet at least.
Yeah, even when they are though, like I mean, they're their OS will be on the board that
Right.
we're producing.
Right.
I don't ever envision Mango locking things down. That's just not in their culture.
Yeah, I don't think it is either. I don't think it is either.
Right. Yeah, there's a. I think the future is all partnerships, and anybody who can't learn how to get along with others isn't going to do well in the business world going forward. And so, I mean, that means maybe it's not all open all the time, but the idea of trying to lock down things is just not likely to do well, I would say, in the current consumer market.
That is a problem. And, you know, I've talked to people in the industry, and I think we talked about it last time you were on, about I don't mind closed source as long as there is the ability for it to either be affordable or for it to be licensed, right? So C2Box is doing this SDK thing. We covered the SDK license agreement, which is atrocious. We don't know yet. It's been, I guess, what, 3 or 4 weeks now since the SDK license agreements came out. We don't have an official word from Lychee yet as to what the plan is there. But if for some reason the SDK isn't workable, we kind of find ourselves in the same place one more time. And I would have hoped that we would see some movement from Elegoo specifically about adopting a standardized file format for this, but they're not. And they misled customers about Chi2, Lychee, and the Elegoo Jupiter in their Q&A. They said things that Lychee has not been public about, that Lychee was kind of forced to talk about in their own Discord. And that upset me a lot, because it's like you're forcing the hand of someone with information that is not public, and you're getting pre-orders with an assumption that I'm going to be able to use a better slicer than C2Box. And then, of course, we did the video on liberating Mars, which that video did so well. But I'm certain that I probably upset some people in Lychee, and I apologize for that. But, you know, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that people know that they have options to still use the software that they love dearly.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was basically in a pipe in like the reason that I bought a Jupiter is because I trust the team behind liberating Mars to ensure that I can use my Jupiter however I like.
So now they can liberate Jupiter.
Yeah, I mean, it happened in my Discord. So from my perspective, it's like, okay, cool. Somebody is going to reach out and touch me again and be like, hey, look at what we built. And we'll say, great, cool. Like, we really appreciate that. Let's tell everyone about how awesome you are now.
It's because of your Discord that I talked to both of the individuals involved in liberating Mars, and go figure, neither of them wanted to come on video for very obvious legal reasons.
Yep.
But, you know, they wanted to keep me in the loop. You know, they are contributors to other things in the community. And I think it's really cool that these are not just, you know, ethical hackers that are trying to give the middle finger to a company. No, they're not trying to give a middle finger to a company. They're trying to unlock the functionality that we all paid for. And in the video, I don't know if it stayed in the final cut, but in the first cut of that video, I made it akin to the farmers that have to jailbreak their own damn tractors so that they can maintain them themselves without having to spend thousands of dollars to ship them to their local John Deere facility so that they can get them worked on by a certified John Deere professional, which likely has less experience on Earth than that farmer does working on tractors. And yeah, I can't blame the farmers for doing it. I can't blame the liberating Mars people for doing this either. It's frustrating. And for those that want to try ZBrush but don't want to spend all the money on it, go try Sculptress. It's the free version of ZBrush. It kind of sucks, but it sucks it sucks in ways that will get you used to ZBrush. Or is it Sculpt GL is the other one, Justin, where it's browser-based sculpting?
Web-based. That's pretty cool. That's what Billy likes. And it uses WebGL, which is cool, which is like WOMP, but WOMP kind of fell off there. But
go try sculpting. It is a talent that not everybody has, and is not something that you can easily pick up. You either got it or you don't. And
I can't do it for life of me.
It's like keyboarding for the future. Digital engineering is the new job skill set. I shouldn't even say new, because it started with like Second Life. The very first like digital engineers who were making money, making things only for the virtual world. Second Life. Now that virtual digital construction has an exit ramp into the real world via resin 3D printers.
Yep.
If you can teach yourself, if you are a young person and you're looking for something to study, you should be figuring out digital sculpting, because you can make your own career, whatever you want to make. If nothing else, come talk to Atlas, because we might hire you, because we're looking for people to make random shit. I cannot help but imagine that every single future business has to have a short supply chain. This whole long supply chains, 50, 60, 70 different companies in the supply chain, that shit ain't gonna work anymore. In a world where you have to be worried about a port locking down because somebody got some kind of highly contagious viral disease, and so that port's now locked down for 6 weeks, you're not going to be able to deal. When fuel prices jump and now your shipping prices are too high on your little widget that you're getting from Tajikistan, you're fucked.
Or when someone tries to Tokyo drift the Suez Canal and gets stuck. I mean,
exactly. Or when the national government decides to invade another country, like it happened in Hong Kong. Hong Kong was one of the financial capitals of the world, and look at what happened when Beijing decided to step in. Now, it's not like they've been completely decimated, but you go look at the numbers. There's a lot less business happening in Hong Kong. And if you were a Westerner, what happened to your business when all of a sudden Beijing decided to change the rules? I would imagine that similar things are going to happen over the next 5 years. And so the shorter your supply chain on is, especially if you're in North America, the better. Don't trust Europe either. It's not like they're going to protect us. They can't even defend themselves against Russia.
Sorry, Aaron dear.
One of my favorite startups that's been really coming up is, I can't think of the name of it, but they do the 3D printing vending machines is what their whole their whole idea is. It's Adler Riley. I don't know is the company, or Alder Riley, and they like standard size vending machine, almost maybe a little bigger, and they can just drop those off in cities, and you can get access to them. You probably need some sort of maintenance on them that's local or in some way, but you have localized manufacturing, and I think that's really what needs to happen. And I think the stopgap solution for that would be maker spaces and or companies having maker spaces and allowing people to learn. And I think that's the problem. Like, I'm in LA, there is one maker space in the entire county, and the county is one of the largest counties in the world, in the country, at least. It's huge, and there's one maker space.
What I can say is this: I have a banking call on Wednesday because we're trying to set up a franchise operation.
Oh, that's the real F word. That's the real F word, homie. A franchise. You want to go forward with a franchise agreement and all that kind of stuff too?
Yeah, we're. It's not want. It's what we're in. Yes, that is the answer. Is yes.
Wow. We
have the business plan. We're working up the financing and the numbers. But
I can franchise the makerspace. I'd do it.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is it's a print on demand and all of the additive manufacturing sitting in the back, and then it's lots of fun shit sitting in the front. And you show up as a regular consumer for the fun shit, and then we make most of the money on e-commerce running that print farm nonstop. The foot traffic keeps things interesting. Humans need communion, and I use that word intentionally. We are a rapidly secularizing society with nowhere for us to engage in communion with each other that's not buying shit. I think 2022, 2023 is people having a place to go where they can just be with each other and experience things in the meat space, not just online. And so that's kind of what we envision our maker spaces being, a place where you come to create, whether it be tabletop shit, DIY shit, whatever it is that gets you going.
I agree. And as someone that was a makerspace director, I ran a 9,000 square foot makerspace. I did all, I made that place. I built it, right? From the ground up, I built it. And then I got injured, so I left. But, you know, and as someone that basically runs a makerspace right now, it's just a private makerspace. It's my own maker playground. I know about the challenges that come into it. And I think the big one is people are morons. Sorry to all you people out there. You lizard people, you're fine. But the regular people, y'all are morons, myself included, okay? We do dumb shit because we don't think about it. The amount of times that I have dealt, and this is at local makerspaces, of people blowing a saw stop, which is the machine that stops a table saw blade in milliseconds, because they were morons and used a wet piece of wood. Maybe they tried to cut aluminum through it without turning off the saw stop, is incredibly high. To the point where our local makerspace, which is a county away from me, there is no makerspace in my county. They have a wall of shame where they have the blown cartridge with the person's picture above it. It's a wall of shame. Now, amazing. If it worked, you go into I think they call it the saved fingers category, where your picture and your blade is there, and then they have it's you holding up all 10 of your fingers as the photo. And I think that's hilarious. Like, to me, that's awesome. Because, you know, name and shame when you can, but then, you know, show off you know what? I had a kickback, my hand got caught in the blade. But that's a $150 mistake that most average users can't afford. The makerspace that I worked on was heavily subsidized, so membership was $125 a month, and I mean, and this got you access to a $90,000 Haas 3-axis mill. Most makerspaces are not like this. Most makerspaces are literally like what I have here at 3D Musketeers, right? Bootstrapped. It's we buy stuff when we can. We might not have the greatest, you know, tools and whatever, but it's enough to get you started. Right? And it's probably better than what you have at home. And the goal is you get enough members, and as they upgrade stuff at home, you get their old stuff. It's a tax write-off for them.
Yeah, but see, the thing is like, that's why the model broke.
Yeah.
Because you're right. People aren't particularly bright. Yeah. The other thing that's very important is most people who show up in a makerspace, they want to make something. They think they do anyways, but they don't actually. What they want is to be given something that they feel they had a little bit of ability to customize.
That's why IKEA works so well.
That's why what works so well?
IKEA.
Yes. That's fair.
So when we talk about a maker space, what we're actually talking more about is having, think about like the Apple bar. When you show up in an Apple store, you don't need to really worry about it. Yeah, you walk up to the person and they take care of the thinking for you. It'll be the same thing. You walk into the spot and you're like, hey, I want this, I want that. I saw this on your catalog. I'd like this particular kind of item. And then there's a trained professional there who actually knows how to use the machines that you never get to touch. You can see them all running and whirring away in the background, but you don't need to touch those. You don't actually want to. You just want the experience. I really fundamentally believe like people want that.
See, I'm the guy that wants all hands on all the time. That's why I made a great makerspace director, because I had to become the expert on everything before we opened our doors, or at least know. One of the big things, I don't know how to weld. And unfortunately, the welders did not come in before my time there ended. But it was something that, like, I got in contact with a guy locally who was a master welder who used to weld the frames on every Harley Davidson that factory put out for like 15 years. So the dude ostensibly knows how to weld. He was going to be the master welding teacher, give myself and any of the other staff private lessons. And he was going to do all of this for a membership. and access to a couple of machines that you would normally have to pay for. And that's how these businesses make money. You find people like me, people like the three of us on this call that want to be involved because they want to share their knowledge, and they're willing to trade for access to other stuff or more knowledge.
I think you kind of have to have two tiers almost. What Will is saying and then what Grant is saying. You have to have that kind of separation on who's who. Like, there's gonna be some little bright-eyed kid who comes in there and doesn't know what the heck they're doing, or even if it's not a kid and it's just they want to kind of build something, or there's someone who actually wants to learn and wants to further their skills, and then those are the people you end up bringing on to work there. Almost is how I think you kind of have to have that. There's two groups of people.
What we imagine doing with that kind of stuff, and a lot of this is definitely still aspirational, is that we will learn how to use a CNC router day.
Yep.
Learn how to use a die cut day. And once a month, once a week, depending on demand, depending on the store, have classes that actually educate people on how to use these devices. And it does kind of become a backdoor way for job interviewing to find people to staff the store. But it's also just the key part for Atlas's success is that we learned that we needed to educate the audiences we were working with how to be better resin printers. I think it's the exact same thing with makerspaces. Makerspaces put all these tools out for people, but they didn't fucking teach anybody how to use them. And then they were bummed when people stopped coming. Because again, people show up and they're aspirational. They want to make something, but they don't want it to be hard.
Yep.
Which means they have to be educated, which means the first businesses actually need to be set up knowing that everybody who walks through their door ain't gonna know what they're doing, and they need to be handheld. That's money up front in education. And maybe some makerspaces tried that, but in aggregate, that wasn't the business model.
It's true.
Frame of reference is more that it's actually a far lower cost to come and play because you have far less that you can do, so that we can get more people coming to play and know that, hey, if I come in, I'm going to be able to get discounts on having things made for me by the trained Atlas staff in the makerspace. And if I'm not a member, I can still have stuff made. But if I'm a member, I get a discount.
And you might be able to work on some certain aspects of finishing the project. Like, you're not cutting the wood for your IKEA furniture. You're assembling the few screws. So if you have an electronics project that it's a Raspberry Pi, it's already flashed for you. But all you have to do is put it in the enclosure, plug it in, and kind of get it all booted up and connected to whatever it is. Exactly. And that type of stuff. That's kit-based type of situations, but you kind of get to see the kits being made. And I think that's the coolest part. I wish I had more of that I didn't have to go and get that out on my own and do it on the internet and do it in my kitchen table.
I always talked about the smartest business idea was someone that would just hang out at a makerspace all day. They would be experts on everything that was there. So they would spend the first few months learning every single machine and then just wait for somebody to walk in the door that will instantly pegged, right? They want to have they might want to drill one hole, but that is as much as they really want to do, right? They think they want to do stuff, but they really just kind of want to see it happen in front of their face. And your business model is literally, you see those people come through because you can pin them from the minute they open their mouth, right? You grab them, you say, all right, let's talk about what you want to do. And then you present them with a finished product, you charge them some money, and you send them on their way. And now, and from a makerspace, when I was a makerspace director, I'm like, please, dear God, I want some of these people. Because what happens is the people that come in that want to just learn one or two things, but they want their entire thing done for them, they become the problems, right? They're the problem children that are going to bother you about everything. Like when their 3D print doesn't work, they're not going to blame their code. They're not going to blame the way they set up the printer. No, they're going to blame your crappy printers, your crappy staff, or you being crappy. And if you can have someone that is going to grab those people and say, I got you, fam, and the staff knows, Justin's got him, we're good, carry on, then it makes the business run as a business and a lot less like a charity, which a lot of them tend to be. A lot of them are federal nonprofits, because it is very, very difficult when you're letting randos from the street come in to utilize, hundreds of thousands of dollars of machinery to find a way that works without insurance killing you.
Yep.
Yes. So the trick is you don't let them touch it. They have to feel like they are, but they never actually get to.
Okay, we're gonna let you stand 3 feet away from the printer. Don't cross the line. Mind the gap.
Well, so what we're thinking about is a giant acrylic clear plexiglass. So we'll literally wall off the entire back in clear plexi.
Okay.
And the customers can't even get back there. Workers are just back there working like little fucking ants, moving shit, making shit like Santa's elves.
Don't tap on the glass; it scares the workers.
Somewhere that you guys should look at is the Exploratorium in San Francisco.
Okay.
So 90% of it, I'd say, is an awesome hands-on museum for all ages, like STEM, everything.
Nice.
And like it's awesome. But then they also have an area where it's a makerspace, and they have professionals that are building these exhibits that you're seeing. And like it's walled off of a big sheet of plexiglass or regular glass, like it's just a big window. And they also have like a table. You can go and ask them questions, like if they're like kind of bringing out a project to show, and like you can watch them actually work. And it's really cool. Adam Savage worked there for a while, from my understanding, and like he like there's so many cool projects that they do out of there that it's not just a maker space for these people that work there, but it's also to kind of get the people and like give them a sense that they got to be a part of it. It's that I think that's
cool.
Really cool.
And so I guess, Will, correct me if I'm wrong, would this just, I mean, it sounds like it would just be me taking all of this back into a retail environment, having a front end that, shows people how the stuff works, but the back end is literally the business running on its own.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, then, shit, I've done this before. I used to have a retail business doing this.
A lot of the FDM people who tried to do this before, they have a lot of the knowledge they already need.
Yep.
What they need to do is cut the fat. Instead of having 50 fucking FDM printers, you need 5 or 10. You need 5 or 10 MSLA printers,
yep.
And then maybe a CNC router, and maybe a die cut machine, and maybe a laminator,
maybe a laser,
and a regular 2D printer, and that's fucking it. You don't need a $10,000 Stratus. No. It's $15,000-$20,000 in off-the-shelf consumer printers that you then spend another $15,000 or $20,000 in training the people to use them, so that you have competent staff in the store. When someone shows up and asks a question, there can't be any, I don't know. Let me, no. You need to know on the spot.
That's what, going back to the Apple thing, your genius bar.
Yeah.
They're not geniuses. They've just been trained on this.
Yeah, and if you don't want a genius, you go to Louis Rossmann, right? He's the real genius.
If you want a real genius, but like,
yeah.
But they make you feel like they're a tier above you when you go in there. And like, they took away that bar aspect of it, and they come and sit down with you. They literally have little balls on the floor that you go and sit on.
Yep.
Because they want them to feel like they're coming down to your level and helping you and bringing you in along to the experience. And like, well, I want this to happen really badly now.
Cool. Help me make it happen, mate. Help me make it happen. Alice coins.
Yes.
Buy Alice coins, motherfuckers.
To the moon.
Yes. Yes.
We have
back again.
We have C Catlet 1984 asking, is Atlas making a water washable resin yet?
No, and we probably won't, because, and I mean, this is possible. You're hurting yourself. The water washable resins are more toxic and they're more dangerous to you. Think of them like light cigarettes were in the 1980s. The tobacco industry tried to sell everybody on light cigarettes because they're better, there's less tar, there's less nicotine. Yeah, except for the problem was they got deeper into your lungs, and so they did damage to the very sensitive at the base of your lungs. In the same way, water washable resin, both literally and psychologically, makes you feel like it's safer. So you take less preventative measures, which means you increase your exposure. That stuff is just as toxic as regular resin.
It also is way worse to print with.
Down the polymer chains. Do what?
It's also way worse to print with. It has a much higher tendency to split than regular resin does, the water washable stuff. At least in my experience. It's why we no longer buy water washable resin. It is so much worse to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, I have heard a lot of mixed stuff on that, so I basically just stopped having that particular argument because there is a little bit of variance, but what there is no variance on at all, there is no debate. Water washable resin is more dangerous for you than non-water washable resin.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as safe to touch, safe to drain resin. And I am very perturbed by how the industry has marketed water washable resins or soy-based resins as somehow safe when they are emphatically not. I mean, even the Formwares resin. Okay, so, and you don't have to take my word for this. This is from university professors who have no financial reason to lie. They test the skin-safe resins, and they told us that every single one on the market, every single one, when you put it next to skin, it fucking kills it because of the photoinitiators. And that's resins that are nominally skin safe. They're supposed to be, quote, non-toxic, and yet they're still killing skin cells. So if those resins are doing it, then there's no way in hell the water washables aren't as well. And I understand many people are like, I don't like the smells, or I don't like the things, or I have this reason or that reason. And my rejoinder is that, like, it may be that you need to wait a little while and wait for there to be some further advancements in this hobby before you push forward further. Or you have to accept the limitations of water washable resins as they can. And for the love of God, wear gloves because it's not safe.
I mean, that's why I haven't.
Just like that.
That's why I haven't done resin. I don't have a safe space to do it. And like, unless there was an easy way to be able to just not have the mess, not have, I mean, you can contain the mess, obviously, but not have any of those risks in a home situation where I am right now. And like having that maker space, I think, would be the solution to a lot of people who want to get into it, but can't because they don't have a place at home for it.
And that's part of what started us down this idea was to we saw a whole lot of people buying STL files even though they didn't have printers, and that was just kind of weird. It was like, you don't buy them, you don't have a printer, what are you doing? I have a friend who has a printer, or I use Shapeways or some other company that prints for me. I'm like, okay, well, I need to figure out how to make money on that. And then people saying, my wife hates my printer, my mom hates my printer, my sister hates my printer. It's almost always a male whose female relations don't like the printer. Sometimes it's the other way around, but it's generally men whose female relations don't like the printers.
Hilariously, my girlfriend likes the resin printers more than I do, but
both my parents hate the printers. Well, they like it to a degree. It's that I take up half our kitchen with them, but
why are they in the kitchen?
Like, I don't have room in my room for them.
I see an empty wall behind you for shelves.
There's a desk in the kitchen, but
I am seeing an empty wall behind you that shelves could fit on.
Yeah, but do I want my Ender? It's really loud in my room, and the Proof Switch is fairly loud in my room.
Oh, I'm so sorry, you poor little 17-year-old. You'll be fine. You're not gonna be able to take him to college.
No, sadly. So we have to get that.
No, there's no way you're gonna have that room.
So we have to have the remote printing and train my brother on how to use them for me.
I am hopeful. I shouldn't even say hopeful. I'm fairly confident that over the next 3 years, there will be serious advancements in the material science of resins. There are lots of people exploring non-based photopolymers, finding any way and every way to get to a less toxic way to create printable plastic. And it's just kind of a matter of getting from here to there. And then in the interim, accepting that, like, shit ain't safe. It's not like radioactives, but you need to respect the chemistry to steal a good line. Because if you don't respect the chemistry, you will negatively impact yourself, your community, and your local environment.
Justin, in the Atlas Discord, Aaron Deere tagged you in a photo. Do you mind putting that up on the screen for everybody so that they can take a look at it, from water washable resin that weeks after printing, and it was even primed and painted, it shattered. And now I'm guessing this is not because it was dropped, But I'm guessing it's the internal stresses. Normally, it's internal stresses for this water washable resin. Like, that is no bueno, my dude.
Yeah. It's one of our go-to things. You know, it's okay. So, I mean, to really get in what's actually kind of going on there is pigmented resins. We all think that we're curing them enough.
We never
but
are.
we're not.
Yeah.
Most of
the light
resins,
won't penetrate it, right?
Most of them need 30 minutes or more. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why they need like 30 minutes or an hour of cure time under 40 or 50 watt UV lights. And people are like, I'm doing 5 minutes on a 25 watt light. That's cured, mate. It's not cured. It's just not. What we really should all be doing is moving as fast as we can to clear resin, because clear resins without pigments are basically the only ones that are truly cured all the way through, because the UV can pass all the way through the layers. It's not blocked by the pigment.
Unfortunately,
every single grade.
Go ahead.
Good.
I said, unfortunately, the average consumer hates it. They hate clear resin because they can't see shit. And the average business owner, I'm not willing to take the stupid thing outside and rattle can it, because the rattle canning is never going to be perfect. And all of that extra effort is money that I'm not getting. So I'd rather print in pigmented resin and let them know, hey, this is a green. I always tell people, these are green cured. If we cure them 100% before we ship them to you, they will not survive shipping. You need to take your part, you need to take it outside. And I always put them in plastic bags. I need you to take it outside, open the plastic bag, and leave it outside for a couple of hours. Then you can handle it. And only then can you handle it.
Yeah, and basically what I would say is even that ain't enough. You get off-gassing between your layers. That's what we've been told by 2 resin manufacturers and the university, that there is uncured resin trapped in between the layers, that the crystal lattices that get formed during the polymerization process will trap uncured molecules of resin in between the layers. That's part of why you need these exceptionally long post-cure times to get that resin cured in between the layers.
Yep.
And that if you don't, they will weep over time. And with water washable resins, that internal curing that doesn't get done, that causes them to off-gas and crack. So hollow models, holy crap. Hollow models, almost none of us are curing those right, because you need to cure the outside and the inside.
You got to get into
if you're using pigmented resin. Yeah. Well, and even if you if you just shove an LED light up and into that hole, unless that's a full 360 hole, you're not actually getting everything. You're just getting, the 90 to 180 degree arc above the LED. Most LEDs are not 360 degree LEDs. You only are getting an effective range of 90 to 180 degrees, which again means you've got uncured resin. And uncured resin is the danger in this. And if you're a business owner and you're operating at scale, it's not that maybe one mini won't get somebody sick, but if you send out 10,000 minis, what's the probability that one of those ends up in little Billy's hands and ends up in little Billy's mouth? And it's not properly cured, and now little Billy has got a toxic, they've been exposed to some kind of toxic, and little Billy's mom's on the phone fucking shouting as to why your product made her little angel sick. And
that's always my concern. It's the liability of, oh, it's safe. Dumbass Timmy just decided to do 6 shots of resin, and now we got to deal with that.
Yes.
We did have a question. Jimmy Johansson said, is there any risk of over-curing? I have an Anycubic wash and cure and never know what time to put it on.
Okay, so
I think that's a great question to ask.
Yes and no. It depends on the resin. So, and what does over-curing actually do in this case? So first and foremost, if it's a multi-part piece, wear gloves and do not cure it until you put it together, because the post-curing on every single resin on the market is going to cause dimensional distortion. None of these resins are dimensionally accurate.
No.
None of them are using what I would call scientifically rigorous methods for determining their shrinkage factor. They're just kind of making it up as they go. And so multi-part stuff, yes, if you over-cure them, your pieces might not fit well together. But in terms of losing detail, are you going to have a face that suddenly becomes muddy from a post cure? Are you going to lose the fine details on the mini that you just printed? No, you are not. All you're going to do is ensure that you don't end up with resin that's not fully cured on your model.
Right.
Now you might, again, on some resins, depending on the resin. Okay, so Vulcan, for example, far more flexible in its green state than it is in its fully post-cured state. And that's by design, so that you can remove the supports without having the mini be brittle and break when you're removing the supports. But you want really hard, you want your resin to cure very hard, because that makes the edges more high contrast. So it makes your mini look better. So the post-curing on Vulcan, the longer you post-cure it, the harder it gets. For some resin, the longer you post-cure it, the more brittle it gets. And so it depends. Some resins, the longer you post-cure them, the more brittle they get. You as an individual user can make that judgment call on the risk that you want to take versus the brittleness that you require. As a business owner, your only thing should be liability. Yeah. Am I sending out a product that's going to get me fucking sued? Because it's better to send out a mini that gets broken and have to send it again than send out a mini or a product that puts somebody in a hospital, because it's going to be a way bigger bill.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's also why we don't sell resin to children. I make certain that when someone does business with us when it comes to resin 3D printing, I send them our videos on resin. I tell them very clearly, this shit is toxic. If you don't know what you're doing, then I need to handle it 100% for you. And I said, if you're not local, then you need to find someone who's local. If you don't know what you're doing, you got to find somebody who's local. Because shipping fully cured resin parts, and if you're not handling them yourself, it's a waste of time. The amount of packing and padding that you have to do is
more than the mini.
It's bad. It's real bad.
Yep.
And I'm curious, Will, because I have both. I have the tiny wash and cure, which is over there, broken.
Yeah.
I have the big wash and cure, and the big wash and cure also now put LEDs on the bottom so it can shoot up into the parts. What is your thought on that? Because when I look at doing it on a production scale, I said, oh, shit.
I built a 5-foot table.
You built a 5-foot table with nothing but UV lights?
Yep, on the bottoms, on the sides, and on the top.
I mean, you're in Nevada or Arizona. Why don't you just take it outside?
Consistency, methodology. I can't actually reliably say, like, on any given day, how much UVA and how much UVB am I actually getting exposed to in any given unit volume. For an individual, it's fine. Toss it outside. Who gives a fuck? For as a business, I need a repeatable process that optimizes for time. Outside, too slow.
Do you have windows in your space at all? No? Damn, because I really wanted to see what it looked like with that table on in the middle of the night to see how much UV light you're emitting to the surrounding environment.
He is the sun.
I went down to the Home Depot and I bought some big ass fucking clear acrylic that's UV. It's got UV coating on it. And I put all of the strip lights on the inside, so it blocks any harmful UV from getting out.
Basically, you created your own mini grow house, but it's for resin, not pot.
Coincidentally, I built grow houses for weed too. It's not that different.
What about both?
I mean, realistically, it's not different at all. The difference is you need, instead of just UV, you need full spectrum.
Yeah, you need full spectrum. You need blue and you need pink.
But we're not talking about that on this channel.
I mean, it's legal, so I can talk about it.
It's how to grow flowers. That's all we're talking about.
I mean, we do have grow lights for the fish tanks. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, it is a different methodology because of the lights that you use, but the overall construction is relatively the same. And that's why, like, you'll see ventilation systems. A lot of us, like, for my laser ventilation, it's a grow house fan. It's exactly what it is. Why? Because it's cheap and it works. And it's designed to do this exact purpose, but 24 hours a day. The ones that come with your laser, while they have more static pressure, are only designed to run like 20 minutes every hour. And they also draw like 900 watts. This thing draws 140 watts. It's got lower static pressure, but it works just fine, so I don't give a shit.
Also, not to be the dead horse, but like, this is just a thing for me because I'm globally minded. The wash and cure is a profit-making venture that underwrites the ability of these companies to sell their printers at a loss. That is suboptimal market behavior. So I would encourage everyone to build their own washing cure stations instead of paying Elegoo or Anycubic $250 in pure profit, because it costs them almost nothing to build those things, almost nothing at all. And it's how they're able to sell printers at a loss. You know, I think people need to act global and buy local. And that means
that's a very
smarter.
Good phrase right there. I want to pick that phrase out. Justin, write this down, because we're supposed to be doing this for marketing shit. Act global, think local. That's a hell of a phrase, man. I don't want to interrupt you too much there, but that is a hell of a phrase. Continue on that path.
We are all, I mean, most of us who are here right now, we're millennials. We all know we're sophisticated consumers of media. We should also be sophisticated business people, whether or not you're running your own business. We all, as Americans anyways, the phrase vote with your wallet, vote with your pocketbook, fairly common phrase.
Yep.
When you buy an Anycubic washing cure, when you buy an Elegoo washing cure, when you buy a frozen $70 curing thing, what you're actually doing is underwriting these companies selling products at a loss to keep out Western competitors. You want to bring manufacturing home? Stop going to fucking Walmart and buying cheap Chinese stuff that that allows them to sell stuff at a loss. Vote with your freaking wallet. You know, everyone who's salting about Elegoo doing what Elegoo's done, or Anycubic doing what Anycubic's done, $3 million in 3 days on Elegoo and $2 million in 2 days on Anycubic, y'all are doing it to yourself. Like, it is that simple. Every business in the world right now, for most of us, for the first time in our lives, are more sensitive to consumer demands than they've ever been before.
Yep.
Because none of them has as much profit as they used to. So even an inkling of customers getting mad about a thing, and businesses responding.
Yeah.
You know, people talk about woke capitalism. It's not woke capitalism. It's just responsive capitalism, because the market is so competitive now that if you don't listen to the consumers, you don't listen to the market, they'll go around you. So,
and I blame Amazon for this, by the way. I think it's all on Amazon for why people are so focused on price rather they are on quality, consistency, and all that. Because Amazon says, well, shit, you can get it in 2 days. Yesterday during a staff call, Justin's like, you know, why don't you just get a compact flash to micro SD card or SD card reader? It was delivered 10 minutes ago. Like, we talked about on the staff call, was delivered 10 minutes ago. Now, I can't buy that made in the United States anyways. It is a very, very, very specific thing that is, they're just not produced anymore. But my preference is, when I can, to try to buy local. But unfortunately, local's expensive. And you have to understand that if you want your local businesses to survive, you kind of have to act globally, think locally.
Yeah. And this is fourth wave industrial shit, man. This is what additive manufacturing and 3D printing was supposed to do for us. It was supposed to make it possible for us to bring production closer to home so that small businesses, local businesses, could produce at a level that allows them to be competitive with centralized production. You know, the last 30 years of economic development are all predicated on centralized manufacturing with long supply chains.
Right.
It brought billions of people out of poverty, and it built the global trade system that now makes all of us, you know, have lovely, wonderful lives. The next iteration of that, though, is bringing those same capabilities at a smaller scale, closer to home. Instead of producing 50,000 of the same thing, let's produce 5,000 of the same thing. And maybe instead of it costing 20 cents a unit, it's 30 cents a unit. But 30 cents a unit is still viable, especially when you factor in transportation costs. So it's not going to change overnight. But for us in the 3D printing world, the way you can make the biggest difference is stop buying the things that are just margin producers for these companies. Because that's all that it is. A washing cure station is not $200. It's just not.
No.
You can build it for $30, $40. And easily, you can go down to your Home Depot. Mylar blanket for $5 from Walmart. $5 20 gallon or 5 gallon bucket from from Home Depot. And then the LED strip lights, yeah, that stuff's got to come from China right now because there's no domestic manufacturers of LED strip lights. But whatever, that's $25. You're looking at $40 for basically a curing station. And another $10 gets you something that'll stir it. So now you've got a wash and cure.
Yep.
$45.
I knew that when I bought ours.
Just take a brushless quad motor and a servo tester. That's all you need.
And like I knew that when I bought ours, but I want as a business owner right now, I want the convenience of not having to build it myself, and more specifically as a disabled business owner, someone that can't just like start hucking around 8-foot 2x4s like they used to, using chop saws bent over, freaking nail guns. I can't use a lot of those tools anymore because my back just won't let me. So for right now, the Wash and Cure Plus that I bought on pre-order for $169 is absolutely worth the price that I paid because of the convenience that it provides to me. But yes, if we do start really spinning up resin, and now that my garage is effectively turned into a set for YouTube, I'm going to likely, as our resin grows, move the resin into the garage, because resin doesn't give a damn if it's hot. Resin cares if it's cold, but it rarely gets that cold in Florida.
It does matter, actually. When you get above about 92, 93 degrees Fahrenheit, the chemistry changes again.
Well, shit.
So what often happens is twofold. A, you kill your LCD screen because the exothermic reaction is itself fairly hot, and then it's hot in your ambient environment, so you fry your electronics because these machines don't have good cooling solutions.
That's fair, they don't.
And then again, the resin chemistry itself changes. So when it gets hotter, you need less exposure. And then it can get so hot that basically, it's not that the photopolymer doesn't react, but you get almost too thin. And
the viscosity will change, right?
Yeah. And that basically can just fuck with how things print. So you'll get more print artifacts. You can have the resin also settle out more easily. Weird stuff can happen. Temperature matters is all I'm going to say, not just hot or cold. Cold is the bigger thing. Cold kills stuff faster. But as a guy who lives in the desert, you do have to pay attention to the heat.
That sucks because I am starting to run out of room. But I guess that's just one more push to add air conditioning, but like just enough to keep it at like 85 or below, right? You just can't, or you don't let it get above a certain temperature. Then resin would be fine, because like resin is.
Or just insulate it and open the door.
What?
Insulate the whole garage and then open the door to your house. You don't need separate air conditioning.
Yes, I could do that. We have thought about. The air handler, it literally shares a wall with the garage. I could also just as easily hop up into the attic, throw a vent, and right into the garage, and I'm done. There is one key problem. The garage is an addition, so there is a second roof in the attic that you have to deal with. Number two is, at least here, because the garage is an addition, there is no insulation at all. There is no insulation in the roof. The walls are not even painted. It's raw concrete block. At least that's not part of the set. The set is actually the exterior, the old exterior wall of the house, so it's the stucco. But yeah, there's no insulation. I know the first thing we're doing is we're going to insulate the garage door, because that's going to, one, cut down on the heat, but two, the garage door echoes a lot, so it's going to cut down on the reflection in there as well. But like, those are YouTuber problems. Those are not business owner problems. But yeah, I mean, realistically, if we can spin up a pretty successful resin business right now, those changes are not that expensive when you look at, what it would take to add more resin printers inside of the house versus adding them outside of the house.
And speaking about that, the other thing that I think is going to be fairly different, and it's why I said the franchise thing at the beginning. I think that the maker spaces everywhere didn't have a national story. It was too disjointed. You couldn't. It's not like Starbucks. You go to Starbucks anywhere in the country, and you get basically the same experience. Yeah. Americans are a very mobile people. Mm-hmm. I think that. If you're interested in starting a resin printing business, definitely reach out to us, because we're looking to create a variety of different partnerships in cities all over the country. Because I really do think that that's the only way to make it work. It's getting to a point where every one of these shops is actually just a node in a distributed network that's moving work, resin, and products around. As part of Amazon's key success is not building big fucking warehouses. It's building distribution networks that keep their products in constant motion.
It's the logistics.
They mail it before you even buy it, just based on the statistical probability that you might buy it. I think the exact same thing is going to come into play with the building out of this kind of franchise network where it's anticipating, oh, hey, we need to send things in advance to this shop in Texas that's doing more DIY. They need more of this. This shop over there needs more of that thing. These people over there, let's send another, coder over there. It's actually creating almost like one big store that just has little shop fronts that pop up in various American towns all over the place. Mm-hmm. You make an order, it pops up out of that storefront, not out of a big warehouse that you had to, to displace thousands of trees or build out in the middle of fuck nowhere. So you have a company. If you go out to Nevada, it's creepy. Go up to northern Nevada.
It's true. It's pretty creepy.
For like 2-3 hours, there's nothing. It's nothing. You come up over a mountain, you drive down, and there's just houses. No grocery stores, no nothing. It's just suddenly houses and then giant warehouses. And they're all owned by Amazon, UPS, Walmart.
The logistics companies.
Yes. That is the last remnants of the old way of doing business. Mm-hmm. These kind of maker shops, if you imagine them as medium-sized warehouses, maybe even going into industrial warehousing spaces in major metropolitan areas that are currently very easy and cheap to rent because they don't have people to run in them. It's a smaller space closer to the population. And it's that whole shortening of the supply chains. I think that's the biggest thing. Anything you can do is shorten your supply chains, man.
I mean, I think that's kind of what Amazon's doing right now is like they're opening warehouses in much smaller warehouses that are much more local. Like they opened an Amazon Fresh store. The market is tiny compared to like a regular supermarket.
This must be a California thing because I don't know about these in Florida.
The rest of it is a warehouse. I can go pick up my stuff almost the same day, anytime I want, if I go to that store for certain things. Yes. But they have like random electronics, like they have ESP32s there, same day. Why?
Yep.
Why? Because your dumbass orders so many of them, they keep them in stock.
Probably, actually.
Well, so Amazon has better data on the American people than anybody other than Facebook, which has better data on the American people than everybody. The FBI and the CIA go to people like Facebook and Amazon to ask them where people are and what people are doing. Amazon, if you are a regular American, you probably have an Amazon Prime subscription, which means you buy a lot of things through Amazon. And in the same way as the supermarkets back in the 90s introduced loyalty reward cards so that they could figure out what you were buying and then you use that to infer what you might buy, all of that data, all of it is available for sale. Amazon has bought a lot of that data, which means they know, hey, if Justin just bought this, he'll probably buy that. And what's the probability that he'll buy that? When it reaches a certain threshold, they just mail it to that local grocery store that's near you. Because within a certain probability, you'll buy it. And it just sits there and it waits for you to buy it. And then over time, they just learn. And if you don't actually buy it, they stop shipping shit there. When I moved back and forth between California and Nevada, my first week in California, all my shit took 3 days to get to me. But then Amazon realized I moved, and then all my shit went back to 1 day. It's the same thing when I moved back to Nevada. All of my printer shit took an extra day or two to get to me, and then they realized, oh, he moved back to Nevada, and now all of my printer stuff is 1 day again.
Hey, you know what? If that means it takes me less time to get stuff, I'm down for that. And I laugh because I can buy stuff on, like when we bought that Sarai Tech resin, it was shipped by Amazon. It came in an Amazon truck. But I bought it from their website.
One of the filament manufacturers was just shipping through Amazon when I got
Amazon MCS. It's how we're going to ship our resin.
But I ordered not through Amazon. It was actually sent to me for free, and they shipped it through Amazon.
Yes. So that's what Amazon MCF is. So Amazon MCF means Amazon multi-channel fulfillment. And you've got to jump through fucking hoops and shit. But what it allows you to do, and two things. A, always remember when you use somebody else's platform, that means you're subject to their platform.
Correct.
Amazon MCF means you're running on Amazon's distribution and logistics service network. In the same way as we talked about like an hour ago about how you build a $15 billion factory, that fucker has to constantly run.
Yep.
You build a $500 billion logistics network, that fucker has to run. Amazon didn't have enough internal movement of their own products, so they started selling that as a service in order to ensure they had a certain amount of movement. When COVID hit, a bunch of businesses suddenly were no longer able to access the MCF network, though, because Amazon prioritized the delivery of certain key goods like gloves, alcohol, and certain things for people, which fucked a lot of Amazon business, third-party businesses.
Mm-hmm.
That's slowly getting unfucked. So in very few words, you send a pallet to Amazon. It sits in Amazon. Yeah. Whenever you sell a thing, you go through a little web portal and you say, ship that to Billy Bob Joe. And they bill you less than USPS does on a per zone basis.
Yep.
So if you're moving product around, it's just more cost effective.
Yep. It really is, and I know locally they were able to shut down an international airport for a week.
I believe it.
Because they needed to upgrade the runway so that they could land larger planes for Amazon Prime Air. And the city said, do it.
Yeah.
Because, one, Polk County. Two, because Amazon was willing to pay for they paid for the entire runway to get made. They paid for the flights to get diverted. And they paid to get people from the other closest international airport, Tampa, to Lakeland for a week. Amazon covered all of that because it made sense to them from a business. That must have cost them $10 or $20 million. And I bet they made it back within a few weeks. They don't care. They own between Amazon and there are some phosphate mining companies. They own most of Polk County to the point that there is a large portion of Polk County, Florida, that is uninhabitable by humans because of how radioactive it is from the mining of phosphate. It's because the gypsum has radioactivity in it, and they have to separate that out.
Florida man.
This is the part of phosphate mining. Florida's got a lot of phosphate in it, and they have no place to put it. So they put it into big, huge reservoirs, which some Floridians might remember. Historically, one of them broke a little bit ago, and the company's like, okay, so what do you want? It's just toxic water. And the city's like, no, please, no. And it took them a few weeks to get a fix of just dumping this radioactive water into our waterways, killing our fish.
Lovely.
And manatees, the poor manatees.
So that's why Florida Man exists. I was always wondering how it happened, and now I know.
That's the sunshine laws. Don't believe what you hear.
No, it's about the radioactivity.
Look, we got a staff member in Chicago, and she had one of these like citizen apps that would tell you when a crime would occur within a certain distance of you. She said I had to turn it off. I was getting so many notifications. I get the same stuff all the time. 99% of that's just Karen's posting that there's... No, these are from the cops. The cops would post it. She said, yeah, there was a guy... She said it on the staff call. There was a guy going around threatening people with a Nerf gun.
Yeah. But the thing with the Citizen app is, now they have private security in LA. So they drive around in cop cars with Citizen badging on them.
Beautiful.
And pretend they're cops. It's nice.
I should just go ahead and point this out. That is your future, man. The world is rapidly changing in a way that hasn't ever occurred in my lifetime, your parents' lifetime, fuck our grandparents' lifetime. Yeah, I mean, some of the 80s movies had it right. They pegged the future as kind of a corporate dystopia. We are running hell that way. Look at Baghdad. You want to know what the future of American cities looks like? Look at Baghdad. Green zones, private security. That is the name of the game. And look at what happened in Katrina. Private security protecting very wealthy homesteads. Okay, so this is not related to 3D printing, but on the East Coast, you know, and in London now, you have these surge taxes for driving. You have to pay more money to drive into the internal part of the city. They call them congestion taxes. What this really is just a way to price out the less well-to-do. The well-to-do will always be able to pay those taxes. It'll never impact them. Everybody else, though, it pushes them further and further out. The more they get pushed out, that private security you just talked about, they get more and more legitimate power because there are fewer and fewer regular people around.
Cities, so like that's fine for me. By the way, on another off-topic subject, Justin, did you feel the earthquake yesterday?
Nope.
We had a guy
there's been 2 back-to-back. I haven't felt a single one.
We had a guy on the maker call that's like, I'm pretty sure there's an earthquake. Okay. That was kind of cool. I know that was like we were on an off-topic subject, so I just wanted to do that. But
not every.
Huh?
We've been having a few. Haven't felt them.
Oh, yeah. A SpaceX rocket went up at like 3 a.m. and everybody freaked out. I'm like, every single time they launch a rocket, like right at like sunrise or sunset, it looks like this, right?
Well,
they're like, oh my God, it looks so cool.
Well, there was a really cool one which was Inspiration 4.
Right. Yeah. There was a cool
rocket. That one looked really beautiful though.
I'm gonna have to send you the one, and it was a Falcon. It was a Falcon Heavy. I don't know, but it occurred very early. It was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I remember because Amber was flying out that day, and we had the opportunity to go watch that rocket on base, but because she had to go to the airport, we couldn't go do that. So I actually watched it from my car driving back from the airport that morning, and it was beautiful because as you get high enough, the sun can hit the rocket trail.
Ooh, I think there's gonna be a launch from California soon. I don't remember when.
Well, I mean, at this point, it's just a normal occurrence that we have launches. This one
we get one once a year, so.
Isn't that fucking awesome? I mean, that makes me so happy.
It's interesting that people are now jaded to rocket launches here in Florida.
Yeah, it's just because you don't appreciate how significant it is. I mean, it's like 1665 again. It's private companies exploring the new world instead of governments.
Yep.
I mean, I want a 3D print on the moon, and that's not even insane, man. We're
not at all.
Doing that shit before the 2030s.
We can make that happen.
Someone's going to do it. There's just no way it doesn't happen. There will be additive manufacturing in space before 2030. I fucking know it. Hopefully it's us. But
it's already there. They've already got 3D printers on the ISS.
No, that's childish shit. I mean, actually, like, processing silica into glass.
With regolith, yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, and just.
All right, we got to get Jim Green on this podcast now. Damn it, Justin. We got to get him on.
Did you see what he retired?
I did. Yeah.
It was sweet what everyone was saying. I didn't get to listen. I got TLDR with most of it.
Atlas. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying the Atlas 5 launches soon from Vandenberg.
Ooh.
Why are they Why are they not using a Falcon Heavy?
Well, Atlas is SLS.
United Launch Alliance.
Oh. Okay, different company. Got it.
Yeah.
Oh, because of course Bezos has to be mad, so he.
That's not Bezos.
It's not Bezos.
Who's SLS?
Or it's not SLS.
They're fucking Boeing and Lockheed.
Yeah, that's Boeing and Lockheed.
Manufacturers who basically lived off the government cheap for 30 fucking years and set American and human exploration back 2 decades so that they could have. I'm not gonna rant about it. I hate defense contractors with a goddamn passion. They've wasted trillions of dollars. Just
Falcon 9 will be at midnight.
As a sub for some of those people, they are just fine in my book. Thank you very much.
Hey, if they hadn't, the American government, meaning the American people, spent the equivalent of like $350 to $400 billion to develop the Saturn V rocket system. Do you know that when Musk rebuilt his Raptors, he had to drag one off the ocean fucking floor because we lost the data, because they stored it on old reel-to-reel tapes. The actual build, we forgot as a people how to build Saturn V rockets because the United Launch Alliance.
We didn't use them very much, so I can understand that.
That is immaterial. Like we lost it because of corporate fuckery. And because defense contractors have been allowed to have cost-plus contracting from the U.S. federal government for far too long.
Did you see what the FAA is doing to Starship right now?
No, what are they doing?
They're pawning them around and adding an extra 30 days to the waiting time for them because they're waiting for public comment on the EPA stuff, even though it's a single rocket test that they're trying to do. Yeah. And we do a lot more harm to the environment than a single rocket test, but I digress.
Yeah,
and so everyone's like, just go and spam their form with Rickrolls and just be done with them because they had an open form to anyone who wants.
What I'm really hoping will happen soon is that a billionaire somewhere is just going to go out and build a facility in the international waters and just say, fuck it, we're not.
That's what Musk did. Musk bought an oil rig.
Yes, but they're not actually. I mean, eventually, yes, that is the plan. But I mean, fewer rocket launches from America. We're a ways away from that. But I look forward to that day where they just stop listening to the federal governments of the world that are basically incompetent and sclerotic. I'm libertarian. I'm not a fan of governments. So.
I'm a fan of 3D printing. That's what I'm a fan of. And I think everyone on this call and everyone that's watching this and listening to us if they're not a fan of 3D printing, I sincerely don't know why they're here. Maybe they just like one of the three of us for whatever reason, and maybe that's a little bit weird. But I like 3D printing. And I look at this and say, we've got some opportunity as a community, as a whole, as a country, to be pushing this technology. Everyone uses Industry 4.0 and agile manufacturing. I hate those buzzwords, but it's great for SEO as far as I'm concerned. Otherwise, I hate using them.
Yeah.
But we look at what traditional manufacturing is, and as someone that I spent 2 days last week calling traditional manufacturing companies to see if they would like to utilize 3D printing in their prototyping stage. The amount of them that cussed at me is more than I care to admit. Because why do they want to do that? I said, well, it'll decrease how long things take for you. It makes your sales process more efficient. And it costs you less money, which means you can maintain higher profit margins. Well, that means we would have to get rid of people. And we don't want to get rid of people. We like our team. I said, I understand you like your team, but couldn't your guy that's doing your prototyping be more useful on a production level machine? And like the guy's like, no, F you, hangs up the phone. I'm like, okay. And I look at it and say, we've got a fundamental problem here of a technology that is just not understood. And it's why this podcast was originally started to help people better understand this technology. And we look at it and we say, all right, what do we have right now? We have FDM, which is ostensibly very slow. Unless you want to take tons of time, it's not all that pretty. Accuracy is okay. Then you have resin. Resin is very fast, reasonably high accuracy, but it's incredibly toxic. Very few people know how to do it properly, like proper. And it is unlikely that businesses are going to have somebody in their shop already that can run a 3D printer with the effectiveness that a company like 3D Musketeers could do. So where do we draw the line and say in-source versus outsource? And outsource still being a local outsource or a reasonable regional outsource. Like, because there's a business model to be had here, and 3DM seems to believe that there is money to be made on this outsourcing method. But we find for some reason that there's so much pushback because people don't understand the tech. And so we've been trying to educate people, but it seems that only the ones that like the technology are willing to be educated. So Will, how do you think that this works? Because I mean, clearly you don't get a 4,000 piece order just because, you know, they like your long hair. You get a 4,000 piece order because you know what you're doing. So how did all that come to be? I'm curious.
I went to them and said, I'm going to do this thing, and got them hyped for it. We're in a moment where you build your market. There is, okay, all things are subject to evolutionary processes. The last 40 years have been selecting for a very particular kind of business. That's why they look at you and say, why the fuck would I want that? Mm-hmm. Because that doesn't do do anything for me. Yeah, sure, maybe I can have one prototype, but they can't imagine a world of getting 5,000 of the same unit. They only think of one is very expensive, or I buy 50 million of them. There's no middle ground. So I think that the way you sell this kind of thing now is finding people who need middle-sized quantities.
That's exactly what
it's do what?
That's exactly what it is. It's that middle ground.
Yeah. It's people who don't even, and the thing is that, like, that's why you're not going to have people come to you, because they don't know that this even exists. It's a brand new world.
Right.
So, you know, the first order I got is what led to the second one. So I got 1,200, a 1,200 piece order from a guy who pinged me and asked, do you know anybody who can do this? And I said,
me.
I can. Yeah. He's like, I need somebody to make me 1,200 of these things, and I need them in 4 different colors, and I need it in a month. And I know, like, I've gone to other resin manufacturers, and they won't do it for me. You guys already make my other models printable. Can you, or do you know anybody who can make me these models? As soon as I got that order, my brain started cogitating. And so I went to somebody else, and I said, hey, man, let's do a marketing thing together. What would you do if I made 4,000 of your ships? He's like, are you fucking crazy? Why would you do that? I'm like, because I can, and I want to do it for other people.
I'm going to order a ton of resin, gallons of IPA, and I'm going to work.
Yes.
I love it.
And that's where we are right now. Like, if you as a business owner are looking at trying to transition your FDM, or you want to build in this space, it's not going to show up on your doorstep. You're going to have to straight up old school door-to-door salesman that shit. You got to go build your influence network, build your client network, reach out and touch people. Find your niche, whatever that niche is going to be. And it needs to be one that you like, because this shit's not easy. You're going to spend a lot of time, and you need to want to enjoy what you're printing. Yep. Find someone. Even if it's a 200 or 300 piece order, find someone who wants something in your local area and go serve them. And then take that order and find somebody else and serve them. Find people to serve. Have that kind of service attitude of, I'm not looking to make money, I'm looking to serve you. We'll make money in time. Not everybody can do that. And not everyone is even really emotionally intelligent enough to engage in that kind of long-term play.
It is a very, very difficult movement to make. Right, because you're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get a lot of, you do what now? Can you make us a banner? You're going to get a lot of those where, like, literally, the phone calls that I've gotten this week, all but, like, 3 were for people that wanted 2D printing, because the knowledge
I told you just buy a big laser printer and just be done with this.
Yeah, because I just have money for big-ass laser printers, but, you know, I don't want to get into that industry. I'd rather just send that to someone that knows what they're doing. What happens is you end up spreading yourself so thin that I'm not going to get business for either one of them, because it's not going to be clear what we do. You know, we have to modify, and I think the way that everything has happened in these past couple of years has shown people that the old school way is not exactly the way that works, except the old school shops didn't hear any of that. So you have to find the newer CNC shops, the newer designers, people that are, because, like, the old guys that have been around, and I'm going to pick on one, he's not here, but I wish he was, Fotis Mint. I'm going to pick on him because he's been around for a minute. You know, he's already got people that are running the resin for him. It's like he's got tiers of patrons that can do the sales already. That's already there. Because he set that up a long time ago. But you look at the smaller community, and I think we talked about this a little bit. You look at the smaller people that don't have that set up. There's a wonderful opportunity there for small businesses, people that are starting up, that want to get into bed with these companies to do that kind of thing. Oh yeah, it was Fotis' birthday, so we all have mini Fotises, which is hilarious. Common software manager is restarting, my computer says. I don't know what that is, but it's restarting. But, you know, either way, I look at it and say the challenges all exist for similar reasons. We have an education gap, and we've been trying as 3DM, but I know that we're not succeeding in a lot of areas. Clearly you guys are niching down hard with resin. How are you getting that knowledge about how to handle resin out there to the community in a way that is educational and non-pandering?
Well, I mean, so twofold. The main way for us is honestly, it's our Discord. It's the Atlas support Discord. That, we've got 20 plus ambassadors from all over the world that live there. That's their whole thing. They're just there to help people learn. And I'm a big believer in culture. It starts with a corporate culture that we have of just being nice, and not acting like God kings. We're passionate people who love to 3D print. We're not special. We don't try and keep secret sauce. Anytime we learn anything, it's almost always learning through failing, and then finding a way to work. And then so we share it.
It is the best way to learn, but also the hardest and slowest way to learn. Failing.
It is. And the thing is that in the FDM world, because things were done for you in kind of a way that software all handled it, there was an old culture of almost like a bipolar culture of everybody share your settings, but then the settings that really work, the dialed, calibrated settings, businesses would just try and hold to themselves and not share. And I think that's a big part of what killed the FDM world, was this me first, me only, I'm not going to share attitude.
Yeah.
We've tried to have the exact opposite. We share everything we do, all of our settings, everything that we do. We don't keep any of it internal. And I think that's why people keep coming to our Discord. I hear a lot of people say, hey, it's a nice, friendly place. It's not toxic like Facebook. If I'm a new person, what to do? Yeah, absolutely get off Facebook. Because, the people there are mean. I'm sorry. Atlas is still a small company, but we are one of the larger companies that make things printable. And I print a lot of shit. I am not a genius, but I know what I'm doing. And it's frustrating to have somebody who's got a brand new printer who thinks they're hot shit on Facebook yell and shout it.
Oh my God. So we're doing a whole series on this. We started this just this past Friday, and I'm so glad. I'm trying to steer him into talking about how some people think they know what they're doing and they totally don't. We started we're calling it Print Fail Friday, but the hashtag for it is hashtag Print Fail. Because apparently no one uses that. It's only had like 9 uses the entire year, so we're going to take that one over. But I'm staying off of Facebook because I think it's a bit of a cesspool. But we're going to Reddit. We're going to Discord. I went to a community of ours yesterday, and I feel like someone's been personally attacked by their 3D printer. That's going to be in the next episode. But literally, there was a part of someone that had a white part and it had a black line in it. And the answers range from the right answer, which is your nozzle, your hot end is leaking somewhere and you're getting burned plastic, to your extruder is putting metal shavings into your filament. You need to clean it.
That makes no sense.
What? You have a 0.4 millimeter orifice nozzle. You will not get metal shavings. And this guy stood and said, yeah, this happened to me. I got to blow out my nozzle with I have to blow out my extruder with compressed air. You're going to put metal flakes into the air? What are you, an old school body painter for cars? Come on. No, that's not the right answer. Then one guy's like, well, I had this issue when I put lines on my filament every 100 millimeters so I could tune my steps per millimeter. That's not it either, because it clearly isn't. And what happens is you end up with people that are chasing wild gooses, sure, for no valid reason, and then they end up getting pissed off. So we're starting this whole series. We're going to do one for resin. So I'm going to be leaning on your Discord, I'm sure, for some things. But we are absolutely going to be doing them for resin too. And things like, okay, you had a bubble, your part was too thin, you didn't deal with suction forces. And then we're going to have one every month, which is just going to be the meme. And I will make sure that we make it the meme, where I'm going to look at a resin part and say, well, that failed. Have you tried drying your filament? And going with that route, where it's just wrong answers only. And maybe what we'll do is we'll keep track of the ones that we've done every single week, and then just go through all the wrong answers, and those are the answers that will show. But there's absolutely some point to be made here. of that there's just not good enough education, and we've been trying, but we're not hitting that market of people that have 3D printers that don't understand them, and even further, the people that want to utilize this new technology and don't understand it either. Do you have any like thought process on what you think we could be doing better as not just a company, but as content creators to be bringing this idea? Because 3D printing is something that can be used for production, and it's something that should be used minimally during a production status. But how do you get that across to people that just don't get it?
Well, I mean, I think it's different things. So for a regular consumer, honestly, I think it is. I mean, we have a partnership agreement with Lychee, so what I would say is it's getting them into Lychee, because Lychee just simplifies things. It's got default settings that don't come from the manufacturers. It comes from the cloud. They take all of the settings from their users and they create averages, and they offer those as defaults. Hey, do you want to choose this? And then realistically, it's setting expectations. There are a lot of people who, a lot of the review videos, if you look back at the last year of review videos, what you see is a bunch of guys, because they're all guys, who print a test rook and maybe one pre-supported file, but generally it's just a test rook, and they're like, it's great, it's easy, I just hit the print and it works. They don't even explain that test rook file is only generally good with the resin that came with the machine, if it came with resin. Otherwise, you can't use that sliced file they gave you. You need to go re-slice the rook file.
Right.
We're in this like middle ground where we have a consumer product that's priced at the consumer level, and it's marketed as if it were a microwave, as in it's very easy to use. But in reality, it's like a 1980s build-it-yourself computer, where it works, but there's still quite a bit of finagling and tweaking and tuning.
Right.
And the manufacturers aren't telling people that. Elegoo and Anycubic and everyone are like, it's easy, because that sells units.
Right.
So for people like you guys, and then, even for us, a big part of what sells our brand is us just being truth tellers. Like, well, parts of it are easy, and you don't have to feel stupid if it's not working for you. Here's some solutions, and be solution oriented. A lot of people online are not solution oriented. They're like, it doesn't work, and then they're negative. It's trash. And it's like, no, it's not trash. It just didn't work for you. And I think that the biggest thing that content creators can do right now is push a culture that says, stop saying things are trash. Stop shitting on people, because that's actually why you're struggling. If you would take a minute and give everybody a little grace, maybe try, maybe do a Google. Maybe instead of assuming that it's everyone else, maybe think it's me. Maybe I should change. And how we do that as content creators and as businesses, I don't really know. That's changing consumer behavior at a level that's going to take a long fucking time. But the companies that do it are going to make a lot of money. That's the whole reason we win. People show up because we make printing easy. If you're going to be a business that's selling printable goods to people, what you're actually selling is, I make prototyping easy. Mm-hmm. That's what I make mid-scale manufacturing easy. Make things easy for someone, and they'll pay you. You either make it easy for the consumer or you make it easy for the partner. Either way, that's how you make money. I don't know if that answered your question or not. I'm sorry. I tend to wax philosophical.
No, you're good. I'm laughing because Super Tank in Discord says Monkey is just venting from the mountains of shit he's had to put up with, and I'm like, yes, he is. But that's like, part of what this is about, right? It's not common that someone reaches out to us and said, hey, I'm about to print 4,000 parts. Do you want to talk about it? I'm like, yes, that would be cool. Let's talk about it. Because I've never printed that many parts.
I had to spend 3 days just making the plates to do the print.
God.
That's 3 days of planning just to do the printing. And then, I've got 3 spreadsheets now that break down every single thing that I'm printing, how many times I need to print it, how many things are on each, for doing this kind of printing, it's the only way to do it, or you're going to lose money. You won't know how much your true costs were, so you won't buy things in the right scale, and you'll fuck yourself.
Someone is Overread is telling me about someone in the Aphrion Discord that got resin in their eye and was hospitalized.
Yep.
Yeah, that's going to be a big no for me. No thanks. This is why we say, I don't care what you're working on. Safety glasses are the absolute cheapest bit of insurance you can have. And you know what? If you're going to be working on resin, go get a set of swimming goggles. For God's sake, just go get swimming goggles. Because you know what? It's resin won't get in your eyes if the air and water can't get in either. Now,
it's actually kind of dangerous to pull swimming goggles off your face without having water on your face.
Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, if you could just break the seal on one side, right?
Yeah, if you do it like that.
I'm not saying rip it off so you pop your eyeballs out of their ocular
people do
sockets.
that. But like when you're in the pool, you can do that fine. But when it's like
now I'm gonna have to ask Amber if she's ever heard of that happening. Damn it, Justin. Because like, is this really a problem, or is this like an old wives' tale worth of problem?
I'm not sure. Probably both.
That makes me feel like it's an old wives' tale. Then generally, when certainty is uncertain.
Yeah, and you know, Guppy in our chat, and I think it's somebody in your Discord as well, is making the same point that I've said before. There is not enough YouTubers and influencers talking about safety, and the big reason is because no one's gonna watch the damn video.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to. You know what? I've committed to it. Who said this?
We reached out to YouTubers to make safety videos and to make how to print videos, and we were told, you shouldn't tell us what kind of content to make. We're the creators. We know what to make.
Oh, dude, whenever I talk about something controversial that I know could hurt the company, somehow, adjacent related, I always reach out to them first and say, hey, this is the video that I want to make. Are you okay with me making this? Because I don't want to make your situation any worse than it is. I understand that I have freedom of speech and freedom of press, and I can do whatever the hell that I want within some reasonable range. But why make shit harder for someone if you don't have to? Julie B in the Atlas Discord, please DM me. I would love, because they apparently have a list of all this stuff already. I would love to see this list. I want to do video. I don't care if it is a flop video. I do not care. Because I want to make sure that people do understand the safety precautions that need to be taken for something like this for it to be safe. I'm also an 1,800 subscriber YouTube channel, right? Justin is one of our editors. He does all the time lapses, except for the one that he slept through. Cough, cough. Even though we were hanging out until late in the night, the work wasn't done, was it, Justin? No, it wasn't, Justin. Yeah, I'm gonna give you a bit of flame for that on a podcast. Because
it's Bob's fault.
It must be nice to sleep until noon. That's all I gotta say about that. Is must be nice to sleep
that entire day either. So.
But as an 1,800 sub channel, we put out some videos that I didn't think were gonna do very well, and they did very well. And I want to do one on resin safety. I want to do one on the safety for FDM. Although we covered both of them a little bit, but I'm sure that we missed things. And I'd like to do one with my new set to show it off. What?
FDM is just don't touch hot or get your hands in the way of moving stuff.
Well, I think most of it is just don't touch it, right? Just don't touch it. And like, I believe that if we have if YouTube would let me, I would do a series called like resin printing for dumb shits and FDM printing for dumb shits. But
dummies.
But that's not as cool of a title, right? Maybe the thumbnail will have like an asterisk where the eye would be, something like that.
Or a poop emoji.
Or a poop emoji. Yeah, dumb poop emojis. Ooh, that's a good one.
What we have is, for us, we call it don't stick your dick in the vat.
What?
So you could do don't stick your dick in the vat. That's what we call it. You do something that's so dumb, you're like, what did he do? He stuck his dick in the vat. Why would he even do that? That's what we refer when we see people do really, really weird things. That's what we call it internally.
The old AVE, don't stick your fingy where you wouldn't stick your dinky.
There we go.
Yeah, I want to do something to where we can help educate people, but in a way that maybe they enjoy it. You know, maybe that they get something out of it. Oh my God, you all have an emoji for this in your Discord.
Yes.
Why do you have an emoji for this in your Discord?
Oh, you haven't seen me put this in ours?
Culture matters, and emojis are significant cultural symbols.
No,
seriously,
Justin, do not put it in our.
Build a business, build a culture. There we go, Justin. That's what I'm saying, man. You want a business, build a culture. Culture starts with symbols.
Oh, culture or cult of personality? I'm really not certain what it is, but it's one of the two.
I am not a cult leader. The military was wrong. I will not be the cult. But a very active community, absolutely.
Jimmy says, I was saved by having glasses normally once. The cap on the resin bottle was broken and resin had leaked out, so when I shook the bottle to mix the resin, it flew drops everywhere. Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I can't imagine, one, what the cleanup for that was like, right? And then two, how grateful you must have felt. Now I'm gonna... Like, normally I shake resin bottles. We have a very small shelf where all the resin bottles are, and I shake them in that shelf because I can. But sometimes we, we'll shake them outside of the shelf, and that... Now I have a fear for something that I shouldn't be fearful of, but now I'm concerned that I'm gonna get, like, resin flinging all over the place.
Yeah. As you should. Now, this is another reason why you might like Vulcan, because it'll be coming in bags, so there's no worrying about getting the resin everywhere because of broken cap.
Yeah.
I love how this conversation has moved to their Discord from all of us on the live stream.
Go put it in the comments of the video. It helps our engagement, damn it.
Well, we don't have the emojis.
You don't
yet.
have the emojis in there.
We need custom emojis.
You see, I mean, shoot, custom emojis is half the reason I pay for Nitro every month.
I'm gonna have to start paying for it once my gift one expires.
Are you actually going to... You put it in our Discord, you son of a bitch. We have people in there that won't get the joke, so please...
No context is needed.
$70 on Discord a month as a business is the best marketing spend you can make.
$70?
Yeah, there and thereabouts, because that gets you enough boosts to have a custom, a guaranteed custom URL. And again, for a business,
You should do that, Grant.
You should. Because not only do you get the custom URL, everybody in your Discord gets free Nitro in terms of they can send 100 megabit files within.
It's $70 a month?
Because you can give 7 people Nitro, and then we all boost the server.
Oh.
Steve, 14 boosts to get to level 2.
I just bought the boost myself. It's just like I just pay for it every month. Some months people help us pay for it, and it's great. But it's just become a fixed marketing expense for me. It's just a line item, $70 a month that go into boosts.
Now, if your Discord is like the 4,000 or 5,000 people that yours is, yes.
Yeah, but I started that though at 30 people. A year ago in our Discord, it didn't exist. A year ago today, there were 5 people in the Atlas Discord.
Right.
5. And that was mostly Atlas staff.
That's kind of how it is for us. We've got a couple of patrons, which I guess I can do another shameless plug for our Patreon. If you want to support us directly, you can do that. Patreon.com/3D Musketeers. Links are in the description. It does not cost much to support us. We have tiers as low as $1, and if you're feeling especially generous, we have the Musketeer, which is $420.69. And Justin, we still need to tweet that at Elon Musk. We continue to forget to do that. We need to do that. If you're feeling generous.
I mean, I did get a response from him once, so.
Really?
Yeah.
I would do a happy dance over that.
I did. It was at midnight one night in 7th grade.
Yeah. I would do a happy dance over that.
It was about flamethrowers.
Fucking naturally, I wanted to buy one of those so bad.
I did too. I was vetoed.
We call them brush clearers here in Florida, and you can buy them at Harbor Freight for like $30. You hook it up to a 20-pound propane cylinder, and you can still put fire 10 feet away from you.
But the thing is, it's in an airsoft.
I don't care.
and it looks cool.
I don't care.
And it says not a flamethrower on it. It does have it's 3D printed, the not a flamethrower.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, that's
Ask
cool.
Matt for pictures of his. And then
I didn't know that it was 3D printed.
from my understanding, the early ones were like the ones that they got at the press events.
I mean,
I'm
would
not
that
sure about
be
the rest of them.
would that be an example of 3D printing in production? Or do we not
I mean, there
consider
were only
that?
4,000.
Well, I mean, like if you want to look at like true production, like what is viable right now for 3D printing, outside of FDM, it really is only collectibles and toys right now, and then I think fairly soon DIY stuff, but ultra basic. Like, okay, so think about when you go to Home Depot, the plastic section that they have, where they have wing nuts, they've got bolts, the little M16 nut, like all of the various and sundry things that you can get in plastic bits that are injection molded.
Mm-hmm.
That is a thing that you can contemplate manufacturing. But what you should not do is make the actual ones you buy in the hardware store. It's fine the oddball ones they don't carry, but that people need, and print those and keep that in stock. Okay, so one of the most profitable things to print in 2020 were ear savers, the little things that kept the thing off your ear.
We gave them away.
Were selling them.
I gave mine away too.
Yeah, we gave all of ours away.
Millions and millions of dollars were made by people on Etsy selling them for $2 a pop, and people were paying for them. You couldn't have known that in advance, though. You just had, I mean, anybody who's thinking about using 3D printing as a business, what you're actually becoming is a retail buyer. It's a job description that used to exist only at the upper echelons of retail. You'd be given a job, you go to various trade shows, you buy merchandise for your large corporate to sell, and they buy it in bulk.
Yep.
As a manufacturer, because that's what you would become if you're starting a business with 3D printers, your new job is to go out and find products to work, to get produced by your factory. It's
right.
Just like being a retail buyer. If you make bad bets, you don't sell shit. I mean, that's what we've been on the hunt for this last 3 months is going out and finding people to make products for us so that we can sell them.
I think Seek Catlet 1984 puts the biggest challenge in there. You forget people are dumb.
Yeah.
People being dumb is probably the biggest one. She said it's an issue my mother works at an eye physician's office, and God, the pictures. Oh, I don't want to know. I don't want to know what people get in their eyes.
Yeah.
No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. Yeah,
Not on your list of things?
Not on my list of things that I want to have happen in my life. Thank you. I've done some very dumb things in my life. I would like to keep them at a minimum when I can.
I feel that.
Yeah, absolutely.
More than one I did. I think that's like a high watermark of things that are dumb that I would like not to read.
Now, you were saying that it took you 3 days to build the build plates for these 4,000 prints. How many different build plates did you have to make for this entire print?
30.
And how many printers are doing this?
10. It's 25 loops, all 10 printers for the 30 different plates. Because it's 36 plates, because it's 6 units and 6 factions. And each unit has its own plate. No, 5 units. 5 units, 6 factions. Yeah, 30.
Okay, that's not too bad. So a lot, I mean,
No.
Are you running 30 individual printers so that it's just one plate per printer, or what's your plan there?
No. So I've got 10 Saturns. B is that okay, so ship A has 6 factions, but I need the same number of ship A. I just need one for each set of factions. And They are different ships, but all of the heavy cruisers. For one, I have to print that loop 5 times, meaning 50 prints, because each loop is 10 printers printing the plate once. And the math part, the part that took me the time, wasn't actually building the plates. That was mostly just waiting for the software. It was afterwards doing the math of okay, I need each squad has this many of this ship, this many of that, this many total ships.
Right.
and mapping out how many of each different plate I needed to print to end up with an even number of units at the very end, so that I have no extra units.
Well, that was the goal.
Is long. Yes.
Yep. I guess I'm the one that's like, all right, I want to build plates that have the precise, like if I have 6 different factions and I need 30 of each thing in there, how do I build it in a way that, assuming I have no failures, which is the hard part, right? I will have no spares. And if I do end up with spares, marketing prints! I put them on the internet, they look cool, and everybody's down, right? That's how I look at it.
The way that you do this is an introductory algebra lesson. Mm-hmm. So you set yourself, you set up a multivariable equation of a plus b plus c plus d plus e plus f equals the total number of units. And then you set each one of those variables to the minimum number that you can fit on a plate, or the maximum number rather, for each one of those unit types. Then you take that 4,000 and you divide that 4,000 by the total number of units in each squad.
Okay.
That gives you the total number of squads you're going to produce. And then you take that squad and you say, okay, of the squads, how many plates do I need for each one of these units? And whichever one is the fewest number of plates that you require, that becomes the number that you divide everything else by. And that tells you how many sets of units you're going to make. Or sorry, it's not the smallest one. It's it is the smallest.
Yeah.
So my little guys, they only take 3 loops per faction to print all of the ones that I need.
Okay.
It becomes my denominator. I divide my thing by that number, and now I know exactly how many of every unit I need. Because if I run this plate 2 times, I'm going to have 60 units. I only need 43 or 47 or whatever it is that I need. And that now tells me exactly how many squads I'm going to make. Since I know exactly how many squads I'm going to make, and I know how much access I'll have off that one, my smallest guys, on my next ones up, all I did was make sure that at the end of it, my extra units will resolve into an extra squad. Because the squad is what I'm actually selling. I'm not selling individual units, I'm selling squads. So as long as any excess is a full squad, no fucks.
Then no longer is it excess, it is inventory.
Exactly.
I like that model. We tried that once and the guy never came and picked up his parts.
Yeah, I would lose my shit because I invested a lot of money in this bet. So yeah.
So if anyone is looking for like 1/64th scale hot rods that are resin printed, like hit a brother up because I got a bunch of them here.
I may have a couple of my friends are really into that stuff.
It's for slot cars. They're slot car bodies.
My friends will still take them because they like Hot Wheels because they're nerds.
They're gonna have to buy them because he didn't buy them.
Well, yeah.
The dude said, "Oh yeah, I'll pay you," and I'm like, "All right, I'll get working on this," because that was back before I had mono LCD printers. I'm like, I should get started on this. Dude never paid me. God, that sucked. We got burned recently. If anyone wants a cake topper with yeah, Justin, that part never got paid. If anyone wants a cake topper with camshafts and connecting rods, let me know too, because like I got that done. Other than the laser cutting, thank God I didn't do that.
That same friend would probably want it too for his birthday.
You have some weird ass friends. I guess that's what it's like being. See, Will said we're all millennials here. No, 2 of the 3 of us are millennials. The other is Gen Z.
We eat Tide Pods.
Oh yeah,
that's right. You eat Tide Pods.
I'm just outside of the Tide Pod though.
No, okay. So here, this is the thing that a lot of people know. Do you actually know who the people who were most likely to eat Tide Pods were?
Millennials.
What age demographic? No, not even close. Fucking senior citizens. More senior citizens ate Tide Pods than millennials. It was an actual major problem for them. The 2 demographics that were eating Tide Pods were young children, 3 to 5, and senior citizens who had dementia. This isn't a negotiation. This isn't a debate. It's a matter of scientific fact.
No, I'm just like, that's interesting to me.
But the news media picked it up and were like, fucking millennials are dumb and they're eating Tide Pods and putting it on YouTube. And it's like, no, actually millennials were just making YouTube videos that made people click and watch and say, stupid millennials, because we realized that makes money.
Yeah.
What's up?
Oh, my sister said she thought it was Zoomers.
I don't know, man. I just sit here and continue to be the nice the nice hermit that I am, and I'm like, oh, okay, people are doing that. Well, all right, you know, kind of is what it is.
It's a lovely thing now. There's something called, I don't even understand, a devious lick. I don't even know what that means, but they go and steal stuff from schools. So they're taking like the toilet seats off of toilets, or they're taking urinal cakes, or the soap dispensers out of bathrooms.
Yes.
Or like doors off of hinges. Yeah, it's fun. It's really
why don't kids just like go home and play video games? Oh wait, that's right, because they're just as toxic on video games. Why do you like? We're trying to find. We're gonna have a whole tier on our Patreon that's for gaming, where you guys can like literally come on and hang out with us when we're gaming, rather than randomly finding us in lobbies, which has happened once. We had a patron found me in a lobby.
Splitgate?
Huh?
Splitgate?
Yeah, they found me in a Splitgate lobby. I have my mic turned off, but they DM me like, "This is you, right?" I'm like, "Yep, that's me." I mean, it's 3D Musketeers. It's kind of hard not to. It's me. But like, we're trying to find games that we can play where the community is not incredibly toxic. So like, Fortnite is not happening. Call of Duty is not happening.
God.
Yeah, because like the communities are so egregiously toxic. And I'm waiting until some stupid viral thing comes out from 3D printing in general, of some sort of fad that comes out, right? We had the fidget spinners were great for 3D printing, but I'm trying to figure out what the next one is.
Baby Yoda. Oh, I mean, straight up. I mean, shit.
Get that shit out of here, Justin. We're gonna get demonetized for that. Not all the cussing. We'll get demonetized for having something related to the mouse on the stream.
Oh yeah, don't have a mouse on the screen. Disney will sue the fuck out of you.
This is just 2 of them. I have more.
Why do you have so many?
Oh yeah, the Baby Yoda thing. Now, I mean, like realistically, those Baby Yodas represented about a $3 billion loss for Hasbro, who, for reasons that make no sense to me at all, didn't have the plush and the toy ready for Christmas when they launched show, The Mandalorian.
It's so stupid.
They
could have 3D printed them. It would have been ready.
It was ready, and it was one of the most downloaded items on my mini factory.
Yep.
Which actually, you want to talk about IP? I'm very interested to see how my mini factory is going to manage to stay in business given the amount of IP infringing merchandise that can be purchased on their stores.
I would guess they're going to do the same thing that a lot of stores do: not respond to the DMCA claims and ignore them like they're the plague.
Wait until they get sued.
Yes, yeah.
Wait until they get sued.
I would imagine. So, in the 90s. There were lots of music startups that thought they could do the same thing. They looked like Napster. And they could, all the way up until they were a certain scale and a certain amount of money was being lost/made. And then all of a sudden, the RIAA showed up, the Recording Industry of America. I would imagine that within the next year, because of the amount of money on the table, major manufacturers and IP holders are suddenly going to not be so nice to companies that are willfully engaged in IP fraud. Because it's not like they don't know that Marvel didn't approve Joe Blow Schmo for making a Wolverine figure. Like,
yeah,
fan art is okay. There's lots of creators who do a good job with how they handle fan art.
Yeah,
there
like
are also
Wexter
a lot. Do what?
Like Wexter does, like he does the minis of certain characters.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that. Where do we stand on, like, Chaos Cortex, Chelsea, Wexter did one too. They did the Starro from the new Suicide Squad movie. Where does we stand on that, right? Where does it stop becoming fan art, and where does it then become an infringing of IP?
Well, that's some of the funny stuff. So all of the Star Wars Funkos, if you ever take one out of the box, they're all bobbleheads. They're not standard Funkos. Because Disney/Star Wars will not allow you to make an action figure of them. And a standard Funko is considered an action figure, so they make bobbleheads. They cut off a little thing and just put a spring in it. Same manufacturing process, just they add a spring.
This will have to be an upcoming episode where we talk about IP in the 3D printing industry, because it is a big deal. And, you know, we as a service bureau, it's not my job. It is not my job to figure out if you own the IP or not. We say the same thing. It's in our terms.
Just so you know, it fucking is.
I can't afford an attorney to do that search every single time. I can't do it.
Yeah, which means you should not. This is why, like, our print network will not. It's I call us print on demand, but it's not actually going to be print on demand, because if you let somebody come in and print a Baby Yoda on your machine, Disney can, and in the future abso-fucking-lutely will shut you down.
That's the nice reason why we don't post those photos, but
I would.
Yeah, I mean, most of what we do is protected under NDA anyways. We don't do a lot of, like, B2C printing anymore. I mean, hilariously, the YouTube channel's been bringing a little bit of business to us, so that's been interesting. So yes, you, the viewer, if you would like to make cool shit and you don't have access to 3D printers, although something tells me if you're, 3 hours deep into a podcast, you probably have access to 3D printers. But if you don't...
Or you're buying one now.
Yeah, if you don't, you can reach out to us, because I do firmly believe that before you buy a 3D printer, you should outsource some of the work so you can understand what the expectation is for quality. And you can talk to service bureaus like us, right? Shapeways, Sculptio, White Clouds, they don't give a shit, right? A company like 3DM, we are going to sit there, we're going to talk with you, we're going to walk you through the process, we're going to hold your hand a little bit, and we're going to get you a part that suits your needs, your quality,
tell us
and all of that.
that you're interested in, possibly you're interested in a Prusa Mini.
Yep.
We'll print it on the Mini, like, so you can kind of see what that part looks like, because machine to machine parts do look different. They have certain like artifacts that are because of that machine, and like that totally makes sense. And if you looking at that machine, let us know, and if we have it, we can print it on that machine. So we're not salespeople for them, but we love this industry and we like making cool stuff. So
well, see, I mean, if you run up Shapeways, and I was talking with somebody about Shapeways and the other ones before, because they had asked if we would be willing to work with them, like, maybe sell them a resin or something. And from my perspective, a lot of the large printing companies now, 5-10 years ago, they had billed themselves as creating a distributed print network for everybody. And if you have a printer, you can join in. And then what they really did was just use that for a minute and then lock everything down. And now they treat everybody just like they're another number. I think that for small businesses like ours, like three Musketeers and Atlas, where we're trying to do this kind of print production,
Right.
It is the personal relationship that we can offer. Like, we aren't going to treat you like a number. We care about your business. Your business is our business. If you don't succeed, we don't succeed, which is a bunch of fucking cliche shit, but it's true. And that kind of attitude, that service attitude of I'm going to serve you and make your life better, Shapeways can't do that because their business model doesn't scale to that. They're the one-to-many model. I think that additive manufacturing allows for a one-to-one model where I'm not a factory that serves 10,000 customers. I'm a factory that serves 5 customers. And I give you a level of service that you only get right now if you're a multi-billion-dollar multinational that owns its own fucking factory. That is the key. And in order to do that, you do need a variety of printers. You need resin, you need FDM, and you need knowledge more than anything. It's the knowledge of how to use those things and how to solve problems. If somebody sends you shit mesh, if you've got someone internally who can fix that mesh, you just saved that job. If you don't have somebody internally who can fix the mesh, you just lost that job. Somebody sends you a model that doesn't have supports. If you don't know how to make your own supports, you just lost that contract. Or you have to use auto supports, which might destroy the model or not provide a good quality print, which means you lost the contract. I mean, everything here, in my opinion, is education for you as a business owner, and then diversity of tools. Not giving the consumer all of the tools. You have the tools and you give them a product, either partially finished or all the way finished. It just depends on the customer.
Right. Yeah, this is something that we're going to see changing a lot, right? The relationship between business, consumer, big business, right? B2B versus B2C. that is going to be changing. And as people start realizing that they've lost everything that they love when it comes to dealing with companies, literally the ability to pick up the phone. Thank God my phone hasn't rang through these 3 hours. But if you call the company, it rings to my personal cell phone. Now, it's not my personal cell phone number because I am not that stupid. But it rings to my personal cell phone because I want, at least until we grow large enough, I want to be the guy that talks to you. One, I'm the most qualified. No offense to Justin or anybody else in the company. I am truly the most qualified person in our company to talk about what we do and how we do it. Two, I can ask you a lot of those questions that I can get easy answers to know whether or not you're a good fit. And then three, if you're not a good fit, I can help you become a good fit and say, hey, I know, we had a guy that asked to have a helmet printed. Okay, well, what's your budget? And he sent us a file. What's your budget? Could you do it for $50? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Well, it's only this much per kilo. I said, you're right. And if you own your own 3D printer and you have 13 years of experience like I do, then by all means, make it for $50. Yeah, but I'm not going to do that.
That for like that type of stuff, it depends on who it is. And normally if it's like a big print, like a helmet, I can't do it at cost. But if it's like a friend who wants something for their RC car, okay.
That's a little bit different, right?
But friends... like if it's like a family or friend, yeah, you could do it for cost or as a gift, like whatever. But then when it's a customer, or if it's like a long-time customer and they need it,
yeah. How else am I going to print my 200% scale Photos Mint Mini with his ass hanging out? How else am I going to do that if I'm running your parts for free? How else am I going to do that?
They're very important.
It's
These
incredibly
are very important.
People don't understand that, and I can't make a good video on that to educate people without like being like, so you don't value my time, let's talk about it. Or you don't value my experience. It's the Picasso, where he drew a circle, right, and he billed the lady like 15 grand. She's like, well, it only took you 3 seconds. No, ma'am, it took me a lifetime. And that's what it is, right? You're paying for all that expertise. If you want it cheap, go to a Shapeways. You won't get FDM.
You're gonna pay more.
You're gonna pay more Shapeways.
And you're gonna pay more.
Or Resin, yeah, you'll pay more because they're not using affordable machinery. They're using $200,000 machines. But if you don't want a good experience,
for God's sake, if you are a new business owner and you're starting out on this, if you buy a Formware, I fucking laugh. I have laughed. Formlabs.
Oh, yeah.
I have laughed at more quote business owners who have contacted us saying, oh, I use I just don't even work with them. I'm sorry. I just can't be bothered. No is the answer. You're not going to make money with a form printer. You're not. And if you already are, you're ripping your customers off.
You have to niche down, and I think you
depends
can.
on the people.
Yeah. If you're going after bigger businesses, they don't care. They're okay with paying Formlabs prices. But yeah. So Julie says, you guys do cost per kilo, but there's also electricity, part rundown, mech lifetime, and there is all of that. We're going to have to do a follow-up video on all of this so that, we can talk about it, because there is a lot into what goes into the pricing as well. I know Justin has to get going, and I don't want to keep him too long. We've already kept him for 3 hours. I can't feel my legs anyways, so... I do want to get this one wrapped up. Will, do you have any final thoughts that you want to provide to people on what it takes to run 3D printing on a production level that you are about to embark on? I'm going to have to follow up with you, like just on Twitter or something, or in your Discord, like, all right, how many hours of sleep did you get? Things like that.
For me, it's planning, man. Plan. Plan the work the plan.
Yep.
And then it's not really a problem. I've got to do 24 loops. Each loop takes 3 hours on average, 2 hours and 27 minutes to 3 hours and 15 minutes. So I just averaged that to 3 hours. So for me, it's like, cool. It's 60 hours of print time, and I've got 10 printers. So this is doable inside 2 or 3 days. And all I do is just make sure it runs. Yeah, it's not bad at all. Now, if I had to do this all on like 2 printers, that's not viable.
Don't do a job like that unless you have like multiple spare machines ready at a moment's notice.
Yeah, plan the work the plan, wear your gloves, and then don't chase bad customers.
Amen.
It's something it's something I have seen from other new people who are trying to start. You know, people who like, I've got 2 or 3 printers and they have somebody come in who wants 300 minis. And they're like, I've got to take the order. It's like, no. Sometimes the right thing to do is to turn the order down.
Yep.
You know, that order isn't for me. I can't satisfy that customer. I can't actually meet that demand. Or the other thing that's worse is I have to have that customer. You don't. The idea that you have to have a given customer is like the gambler at the table who lost the last hand. It's like, no. I got to do one more hand because I got to make that money.
I'll win it all back. I'll win it all back. Yeah.
No, you won't. The money's lost.
Money's gone.
The money is lost. There are 7 billion humans on this planet, of which about 5 billion are on the internet. You don't need that customer. Now, that doesn't mean you need to be an asshole. You need to be customer-centric. You need to serve people. But that doesn't mean chasing after every single client. Sometimes the best business decision you can make is to let that one go.
Yep, it's true. It's true. It's going to hurt. Like, you will hurt a little bit inside because that money is walking away. But the bullshit that you're not going to have to put up with is, take it from a professional, absolutely worth it. Right? Especially the person that says, oh, I'm going to have 20,000 parts for you in a month. I just need you to sign this agreement that you're going to do all this stuff for me really cheap. They are never going to give you 20,000 pieces. Ever. Yep. And like, in the entire life cycle of them as a client, they will not give you 20,000 parts. Ever. And sometimes they do, but it's never happened for us.
Yeah.
You know, so always be careful. Always know what you're doing. Take proper precautions, wear your safety glasses, wear your gloves, wear a face shield. Damn it, put on a bunny suit if you got to. I don't care. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. This is Season 2, Episode 2, 3D Printing for Production. Thanks for hanging out, Will. You want to shout out anybody before we call it?
Yeah, so you know, Runic Collectibles is doing a new project with us. We're going to be launching at the end of this month. Angels versus Demons in Hell, and we'd love for people to check that out. They can pop over to our Discord to learn more. And then we're going to be giving away a year of free resin, a gallon of resin a month, to anybody who follows the Kickstarter project, which launches next week, or buys an Atlas coin. So keep your eye out for that if you want to win a free gallon of resin a month for a year.
Atlas coins to the moon.
You betcha.
We'll see you guys later. Thanks for hanging out.
Later.
Bye, guys.